Beneath the surface of recorded history lies a world of shadows, events and discoveries that refuse to fit neatly into our understanding of the past. What if some chapters of history were never meant to be fully revealed? What if certain moments, frozen in time, hold secrets that challenge everything we think we know? Across centuries, countless mysteries have emerged, enigmatic artifacts that defy explanation, vanished civilizations leaving behind only faint traces, and inexplicable phenomena caught in the flicker between fact and legend. These are not mere stories. They are puzzles that haunt archaeologists, historians, and scientists, raising questions that echo through time. What forces shaped these unsolved riddles? Are we glimpsing the edges of truths too strange to comprehend? For the next 3 hours, we will unravel some of history's most chilling enigmas, real mysteries that continue to baffle and captivate. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the unknown depths of our past. Nestled high in the remote, windswept plateaus of Tibet, amid jagged peaks and ancient monasteries, lies an object that has puzzled scholars and spiritual seekers alike. At first glance, it appears to be a modest Buddhist statue, carved with serene precision and reverence. Yet what sets this figure apart from thousands of others scattered across Himalayan temples is its origin, a material not of this earth, but one that came from the heavens, a meteorite. This statue, weathered by centuries of prayer and pilgrimage, is said to have been sculpted directly from a fragment of an iron meteorite that fell to earth somewhere near the Tibetan plateau. The discovery of such an artifact is both rare and profound. Meteorites, remnants of cosmic collisions, carry within them the story of our solar system's violent beginnings. To find one transformed into a sacred religious symbol invites questions that move beyond art and geology into the realm of belief and the mysterious relationship between humanity and the cosmos. Historical records in Tibet are sparse but intriguing. According to some local legends, the statue was created during a time when celestial phenomena were seen as divine messages, portents from the sky that commanded reverence. In these highlands, where Buddhism interweaves with ancient Bon traditions and a deep respect for nature, the fusion of a cosmic object with spiritual craftsmanship could signify more than mere coincidence. Could the choice to carve this figure from meteorite metal be an intentional act, a deliberate linking of the divine and the extraterrestrial? Scientifically, meteorites of iron-nickel composition have been known and used by humans for millennia, often fashioned into tools or ornaments before the widespread discovery of iron smelting. The statue's metal composition matches that of known meteorite fragments, verified through modern spectrometry tests. But beyond the elemental analysis, questions remain. How did ancient Tibetan artisans acquire such a rare material? Was the meteorite considered sacred from the moment it fell, or was its cosmic origin only discovered after its transformation into a spiritual icon? Some researchers propose that meteorites, due to their otherworldly origin, were naturally imbued with a mystical aura, making them suitable candidates for religious artifacts. In Tibetan Buddhist philosophy, where the cosmos and consciousness intertwine, the idea of a divine object, literally forged from the heavens, holds powerful symbolic weight. Yet, this does not fully explain the statue's precise provenance or the context of its creation. Intriguingly, certain characteristics of the statue defy easy explanation. Its style appears to blend traditional Tibetan iconography with subtle anomalies, design elements that suggest influences outside typical Buddhist artistic conventions of the region and period. Some speculate that the statue's origins might be connected to obscure sects or forgotten traditions, where knowledge of the meteorite's origin was preserved as a secret, sacred truth. Others have ventured into more speculative territory, suggesting that the statue's celestial metal might have been seen as a conduit for cosmic energy, a kind of spiritual technology allowing communication between earthly practitioners and higher realms. While such theories remain unproven, they highlight how deeply the mystery of this statue resonates, not only as an archaeological curiosity, but as a symbol at the crossroads of faith, science, and the unknown. Yet, despite decades of study, no definitive answers have emerged. The statue's journey, from the starry void to the hands of Tibetan artisans to the sanctuaries where it remains today, holds gaps that challenge historians and scientists alike. Is it simply a remarkable artifact born from the meeting of chance and skill? Or is there a deeper narrative, hidden within layers of history, waiting to be uncovered? As we stand before this quiet relic of metal and faith, questions hang in the thin, crisp mountain air. What stories has it witnessed in its silent vigil? What meanings did the original carvers intend, and how have those meanings shifted over time? And perhaps, most poignantly, what does it reveal about humanity's enduring desire to connect with something greater than ourselves, something written not only in the stars, but carved from them? The mystery remains, open and inviting, urging us to look closer, to listen more intently, and to wonder what secrets the skies still hold, waiting patiently to be discovered. From the high plateaus of Tibet, where a Buddhist statue forged from a meteorite connects earth and sky, we journey now to the ancient landscapes of Peru, a land carved by time and steeped in the enigmatic legacy of civilizations long vanished. Here, amidst the rugged terrain and sprawling ruins, lie stone carvings that have quietly challenged our understanding of the past. These ancient images, etched into rock faces and temple walls, seem to depict something startling: figures peering through instruments that resemble telescopes. The site in question is nestled within the Andean highlands, surrounded by towering peaks that have witnessed centuries of human activity. The carvings, weathered but remarkably detailed, show individuals holding cylindrical objects raised to their eyes. At first glance, the shapes and postures suggest a primitive form of optical device, what we might call a telescope. If this interpretation holds, it poses a profound question. Could ancient Peruvian peoples have developed or encountered technologies capable of observing distant celestial bodies with such precision? Mainstream archaeology acknowledges the sophisticated astronomical knowledge of pre-Columbian cultures, such as the Inca and their predecessors. Their understanding of the stars, planets, and seasonal cycles is well documented through their calendars, architectural alignments, and mythologies. However, physical evidence of optical instruments from that era remains elusive. Traditional explanations suggest the carvings could be symbolic or ritualistic, representing spiritual visions or mythic acts rather than literal depictions of technology. Yet the imagery invites deeper inquiry. How might these societies have acquired such tools, if indeed that is what the carvings portray? Some scholars propose that the telescope-like objects could be stylized representations of ritual objects or ceremonial staffs, whose meanings were lost over time. Others note the possibility of cross-cultural exchanges, hinting at contacts between distant civilizations whose technologies and ideas influenced one another in ways still largely unknown. Adding to the intrigue, these carvings bear a striking resemblance to other enigmatic artifacts found across the globe. Ancient depictions of figures engaging with devices that, to modern eyes, look like advanced optical instruments. Are these mere coincidences, or evidence of a shared human fascination with the cosmos, expressed through parallel but independent inventions? Speculative theories take us further afield. Some suggest that the carvings point to forgotten chapters of history, where knowledge of lenses or primitive optics was more widespread than conventional history admits. Others muse about the influence of external forces, visitors from beyond our world who may have imparted knowledge of celestial observation to early civilizations. While such ideas remain outside mainstream consensus, they underscore the persistent mystery that these stone images provoke. What remains undeniable is the extraordinary care with which these carvings were created. The deliberate lines, the contextual placement within ceremonial sites, and their enduring presence on stone surfaces exposed to centuries of weather and human activity. They are not casual graffiti, but meaningful artifacts crafted by hands deeply connected to the world around them and the heavens above. As we contemplate these ancient stone faces gazing skyward through instruments that defy easy explanation, we are reminded of humanity's timeless urge to explore, to understand the universe beyond our immediate sight. What tools did these early astronomers truly wield? What knowledge did they possess, and how has it been transformed, obscured, or lost through the passage of time? The stone carvings in Peru remain a silent puzzle, inviting us to look closer, to question more deeply, and to consider what stories these ancient people left encoded in rock. Is there more to their celestial vision than we can yet comprehend? What other secrets might the stones still hold, waiting patiently for discovery in the shadows of the Andes? From the ancient stone carvings of Peru, where enigmatic figures seem to peer through instruments resembling telescopes, our journey now carries us across continents and millennia to the heart of another enduring mystery, deep within the golden sands and towering pyramids of Egypt. Here lies a riddle wrapped in both splendor and silence, the lost golden tongues of ancient Egypt. In the shadowed chambers of pharaohs and beneath the shimmering surfaces of countless artifacts, references emerge to objects called golden tongues. These are not mere adornments or ceremonial trinkets, but items said to possess a power far beyond their gleaming appearance. Carved from pure gold, these slender implements are believed to have been placed in the mouths of the deceased, particularly the elite and the divine, during elaborate burial rituals. But what purpose did they serve, and why are they so rarely found intact? Excavations in Egypt have revealed fragments and depictions hinting at their use, yet very few complete examples have survived. Ancient texts and funerary inscriptions speak of the golden tongue as a key to unlocking the voice in the afterlife, an object that might grant the deceased the ability to speak, to proclaim truth, or even to command. This ritual speaks to a profound belief in the power of speech, language, and sound, forces that could transcend death itself. Mainstream Egyptology interprets these artifacts within the context of religious symbolism: gold as a divine metal, speech as a sacred act, and the tongue as a bridge between worlds. Yet, despite centuries of study, the exact mechanics remain elusive. How could a small object, placed in the mouth, affect a person's journey beyond life? What ancient knowledge informed this practice? Some suggest the golden tongues may have had a practical role, perhaps as amulets to preserve the voice, or even as devices to stimulate vocal cords. Others theorize that they held a symbolic function tied to the soul's passage through the afterlife, aligning with spells from the Book of the Dead meant to protect and empower the deceased. More speculative perspectives venture further into mystery. Could these objects have been imbued with acoustic properties, designed to resonate or vibrate in ways that ancient priests understood but modern science has yet to replicate? Were they part of a lost technology or spiritual practice that blended metallurgy and sound in profound ways? The rarity and fragility of golden tongues only deepen the enigma. Unlike more durable burial goods, these delicate items were vulnerable to damage and often removed or looted in antiquity. Their scarcity raises questions about how widespread their use truly was. Were golden tongues reserved for a select few, or might they have been more common, now simply lost to time and decay? The very idea that speech, a human faculty so central to identity and communication, could be preserved or transformed through a crafted object invites reflection. In a culture obsessed with the afterlife and the power of words, what did it mean to speak beyond death? And what secrets might these golden relics hold about ancient Egyptian beliefs that still elude modern understanding? As we stand amidst the sands and shadows of Egypt's ancient tombs, the golden tongues whisper a silent challenge. To listen carefully, to piece together fragments of ritual, faith, and artistry that have survived thousands of years. What voices remain unheard, buried beneath layers of history? And what mysteries of language, power, and transformation have yet to be revealed? The lost golden tongues remain an invitation, an echo from the past that urges us to look closer, to question more deeply, and to wonder what other secrets lie hidden beneath the glittering surface of Egypt's eternal legacy. From the golden mysteries of ancient Egypt, where the silent whispers of golden tongues echo through time, our journey now turns northward, to the frost-kissed lands of Eastern Europe, where history and legend entwine around a figure both royal and enigmatic, Princess Anastasia of Kiev. The story begins in the medieval courts of Kievan Rus, a vast and powerful realm that stretched across what is now Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus. Amid the shifting alliances and turbulent politics of the 11th century, Anastasia's life was marked by privilege, intrigue, and ultimately, mystery. Born into the ruling dynasty, she is believed to have married into the Hungarian royal family, a union designed to forge bonds between kingdoms. Yet her fate, shrouded in the mists of time, remains one of history's unresolved puzzles. Few contemporary records shed light on Anastasia's later years. Chronicles mention her presence in Hungary, but after a certain point, the trail grows faint. Did she perish in obscurity? Was she a casualty of political upheaval? Or did she vanish, her story swallowed by the shadows of court conspiracies and forgotten alliances? Mainstream historians generally accept that Anastasia died quietly, perhaps within the confines of a royal monastery or an obscure estate. Yet tantalizing fragments of folklore and later writings tell a different tale, one filled with whispers of imprisonment, exile, or even secret escape. Some legends speak of a princess who lived incognito, far from the gilded halls of power, while others hint at darker fates, suggesting she may have been caught in the violent currents of dynastic rivalry. The scarcity of verifiable documentation opens a space for speculation. How could a woman of such high status simply vanish from the pages of history? Was her disappearance deliberate, a political maneuver erased from official memory? Or did unforeseen events, illness, betrayal, or war, cut her life short, leaving no trace? Intriguingly, some researchers have pointed to archaeological sites in Hungary and surrounding regions, where burial practices and artifacts hint at individuals who might match Anastasia's profile. Yet without definitive identification, these remains offer only fragments of a larger mystery. Could one of these silent graves hold the truth of the lost princess? More speculative theories take us beyond conventional history. Some suggest Anastasia may have entered religious life under a new name, her royal identity concealed to protect her from enemies. Others propose she fled eastward, returning to her native lands to live in anonymity. A few fringe narratives even entertain the possibility of supernatural protection, a princess hidden by fate or folklore, preserved in legend if not in fact. Whatever the truth, Anastasia's story invites reflection on the fragility of historical memory and the lives that slip through its cracks. In an age when power was often brutal and fleeting, how many stories like hers have been lost, altered, or deliberately silenced? What forces shape the narratives that survive, and which remain forever out of reach? As we stand at the crossroads of history and mystery, the unknown fate of Princess Anastasia of Kiev remains a haunting question, a silent echo from a distant past, inviting us to listen carefully, to search patiently, and to wonder what truths may yet be uncovered beneath the layers of time. Who was she, truly? And where does her story lead us, beyond the fragile records and fading legends? The mystery endures, waiting for those willing to seek its hidden depths. From the frost-laden tales of Princess Anastasia of Kiev, whose life vanished into the shadows of medieval Europe, our journey now sweeps southward across continents and oceans to the vast and fertile lands of West Africa. Here, amid the expansive reaches of the Mali Empire, we encounter another enduring enigma, the mysterious disappearance of Mansa Abu Bakari II, a ruler whose ambitions may have pushed the boundaries of the known world. In the early 14th century, the Mali Empire stood as one of the richest and most powerful kingdoms of its time, famed for its wealth, intricate trade networks, and cultural achievements. At its helm was Mansa Abu Bakari II, a figure as intriguing as the empire itself. According to some historical accounts, this ruler made a decision that would confound generations. He abdicated the throne to lead a daring expedition across the Atlantic Ocean, a voyage into the unknown that remains shrouded in mystery. The details surrounding Abu Bakari's journey are sparse and often contradictory. Medieval Arabic manuscripts hint that he commissioned a fleet of ships, possibly numbering in the hundreds, with the intent to explore lands beyond the horizon. Yet after setting sail, neither he nor his fleet were ever seen again. Did they perish in a storm, lost to the unforgiving sea? Or did they reach distant shores, leaving behind traces that history has yet to fully uncover? Mainstream historians acknowledge the plausibility of transatlantic voyages before the Europeans, though definitive evidence remains elusive. The story of Abu Bakari challenges long-held assumptions about pre-Columbian exploration and the limits of African maritime capabilities. What kind of ships were built for such a journey? How advanced was the navigational knowledge at the time? And what motivated a powerful emperor to abandon his throne for such a perilous endeavor? Archaeological and anthropological studies have yet to produce conclusive proof of contact between Mali and the Americas. However, tantalizing hints have emerged: unusual artifacts, linguistic parallels, and oral traditions that some interpret as echoes of ancient voyages. Could these be remnants of Abu Bakari's expedition or other unrecorded crossings? Speculative theories extend even further, suggesting that Abu Bakari's fleet might have found new lands, influencing indigenous cultures or establishing lost colonies. While such ideas remain outside the academic mainstream, they invite us to reconsider the fluidity of history and the possibility of forgotten chapters in humanity's story of exploration. The mystery deepens when considering the fate of Abu Bakari himself. Did he survive the journey? Was he a casualty of the ocean's vastness, or did he choose exile in distant lands? Or perhaps his disappearance was a deliberate act, a symbolic voyage marking a transition of power and a statement about the empire's reach and ambition. As we reflect on the story of Mansa Abu Bakari II, we confront broader questions about the nature of discovery, the courage to venture beyond familiar shores, and the limits of what is recorded versus what is remembered in the human saga. How many other explorers have set out into the unknown, leaving behind only whispers in history? And what truths might lie beneath the waves, waiting to be revealed? The disappearance of Mansa Abu Bakari II remains a profound mystery, an open invitation to look beyond accepted narratives and explore the depths of the past with curiosity and respect. What secrets does the ocean hold, and how much of our shared history remains just beyond the horizon? From the vast, uncharted waters where Mansa Abu Bakari II's fleet vanished into legend, our path now leads us to the cradle of civilization, the ancient land of Sumer, nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Here, amid the dust and ruins of one of humanity's earliest urban centers, lies an artifact that challenges our understanding of ancient knowledge. a small but enigmatic Sumerian seal depicting what some believe is the solar system, with all known planets arranged in their correct order. This seal, carved from smooth stone and no larger than a modern coin, was discovered during excavations of a long-buried temple complex in the ancient city of Ur. Its intricate engravings depict a central sun surrounded by a series of circles, each corresponding to a planet in sequence from Mercury to Saturn, the known planets of antiquity. The craftsmanship is precise, and the arrangement astonishingly accurate, given that the heliocentric model of our solar system would not be scientifically accepted for millennia. Mainstream archaeology attributes the seal's imagery to symbolic or religious representation, planets as deities orbiting the divine sun, reflecting Sumerian cosmology rather than an astronomical chart. The Sumerians, after all, were deeply spiritual, and their art often blurred the lines between the heavens and the divine realm. Yet, the clarity and order of this planetary depiction invite us to ask, did the Sumerians possess a more advanced understanding of astronomy than previously believed? Historical records confirm the Sumerians were keen observers of the skies. They tracked celestial movements, developed calendars, and recorded eclipses with remarkable accuracy. But could they have identified and ordered the planets as we know them? Given that some of these planets, like Mercury and Venus, are difficult to observe without modern instruments, how might they have compiled such a detailed celestial map? Some scholars suggest that the seal's design might be inspired by knowledge passed down through generations, or acquired from travelers and traders from distant lands. Others propose that the seal could be a sophisticated tool for ritualistic or educational purposes, embodying both cosmic order and theological symbolism. Venturing beyond mainstream explanations, more speculative theories ponder whether this seal represents evidence of lost or hidden knowledge. Could the Sumerians have had access to advanced astronomical concepts, perhaps even influenced by contact with civilizations or intelligences yet unknown to us? Was there a tradition of celestial knowledge encoded in artifacts like this seal, waiting to be rediscovered? The precise arrangement of the planets raises further questions about the origins of this knowledge. Without telescopes or modern observational technology, how did ancient peoples accurately place these planets in sequence? Was it mere coincidence? Or does the seal point toward an ancient astronomical tradition more complex than historians have credited? Moreover, the seal's small size and delicate carving suggest it was a personal object, perhaps owned by a priest, astronomer, or scholar, someone entrusted with preserving sacred or scientific knowledge. What role did such individuals play in shaping early human understanding of the cosmos? And how much of their wisdom has been lost over the millennia? As we study the Sumerian seal, it becomes clear that this tiny artifact holds a vast enigma, a glimpse into a worldview where myth, science, and art converge. What secrets did it safeguard, and what does it reveal about the intersection of early human curiosity and celestial mystery? The depiction of the solar system on this ancient seal reminds us that humanity's fascination with the stars is as old as civilization itself. Yet, it also challenges us to reconsider the boundaries between myth and knowledge, between ancient art and early science. What other secrets might the earliest cultures have encoded in stone, waiting for us to decode their celestial messages? And how much of the cosmos did they truly understand? The mystery of the Sumerian solar system seal remains open, an invitation to look closer, to question more deeply, and to wonder about the depth of human insight long before the modern age of astronomy. From the ancient insights of Sumer to the vast, untamed wilderness of Australia, our journey now turns to a different kind of enigma, one of exploration, ambition, and disappearance. We find ourselves amid the red earth and dense scrub of the Australian interior, tracing the footsteps of Ludwig Leichhardt, a German explorer whose final expedition vanished into the continent's unforgiving heart. leaving behind a mystery that continues to captivate historians and adventurers alike. It was the mid-19th century, a time when much of Australia's vast interior remained uncharted by Europeans. Ludwig Leichhardt, already famed for his earlier explorations, set out in 1848 on what would become his most ambitious journey to cross the continent from east to west, traversing thousands of miles of harsh terrain. Equipped with scientific knowledge and a determined spirit, Leichhardt and his small party faced an immense challenge, navigating deserts, rivers, and unknown dangers. Initial reports and journals from the expedition describe the rugged beauty of the landscape, the sun-scorched plains stretching endlessly, the haunting silence of ancient rock formations, and the sparse but vital presence of life in this harsh environment. Yet, after sending brief messages from stops along their path, the expedition vanished. No conclusive evidence of their fate was found for decades. Over the years, scattered relics and ambiguous reports have surfaced, fragments of campsites, tools, and a few faded notes. These artifacts suggest that the group traveled deep into the continent, but none provide definitive answers about what happened in those final days. Did they succumb to starvation, dehydration, or illness? Were they victims of accidents or perhaps encounters with indigenous groups? Or did they simply lose their way in an endless wilderness that seemed designed to erase their passage? Mainstream historical investigation has pieced together likely scenarios, relying on environmental data, indigenous oral histories, and the harsh realities of the Australian outback. Yet the mystery endures, partly because the evidence is fragmentary, and partly because some findings, like reported skeletal remains or tools discovered far from expected routes, defy straightforward explanation. Speculative theories add further layers to the puzzle. Some suggest Leichhardt's expedition might have been secretly assisted or betrayed, altering their course dramatically. Others propose they may have attempted to survive by integrating with Aboriginal communities, leaving behind clues embedded in oral traditions. There are even whispers that the group stumbled upon unknown territories or natural phenomena never recorded but preserved in fleeting memories and local legends. How could such a well-prepared and experienced explorer disappear without a trace? Was the harshness of the land solely responsible, or did unknown forces conspire against them? Could the terrain itself, vast and enigmatic, harbor secrets that no outsider has yet uncovered? The story of Ludwig Leichhardt's lost expedition serves as a reminder of the fragility of human endeavor against the immense power of nature. It provokes us to consider the limits of exploration and the unknown challenges faced by those who venture into the wild. What do the silent deserts of Australia still hold beneath their sun-baked surface? And how much of the continent's history remains untold because it is etched not in written records but in the land itself? As we reflect on Leichhardt's fate, we are drawn into a broader meditation on mystery, loss, and the enduring human desire to push beyond boundaries, both physical and intellectual. The Lost Expedition invites us to continue the search, to question what we think we know, and to wonder what truths may still be hidden in Australia's vast, whispering outback. What became of Ludwig Leichhardt and his party? The question lingers, a quiet echo through the centuries, urging us to look deeper into the unknown. From the vast and arid wilderness where Ludwig Leichhardt disappeared, our exploration now returns to the towering Andes, the backbone of South America and the heartland of one of history's most remarkable civilizations, the Inca Empire. Amid the breathtaking peaks and hidden valleys, the story of a lost royal bloodline emerges, a mystery entwined with conquest, survival, and the fading echoes of an empire lost to time. The Inca Empire, known as Tawantinsuyu, was a marvel of engineering, governance, and culture, stretching across thousands of miles of rugged terrain. At its center stood Cusco, the sacred city, where the Sapa Inca, considered a direct descendant of the sun god Inti, reigned with divine authority. But when Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 16th century, the empire was shattered, its leaders captured or killed, and much of its history rewritten by foreign hands. Among the enigmas that survive is the question of the Inca royal bloodline's fate. Historical records and indigenous oral traditions hint that not all descendants were lost or exterminated. Some may have fled into the Andes' remote corners, hidden away from the reach of colonizers. But who were they, and what became of their line? Archaeological evidence reveals isolated communities preserving unique customs, languages, and genetic traits, suggesting a connection to the Inca elite. These enclaves, shielded by geography and secrecy, hint at survival but do not fully disclose the story. How did these hidden heirs maintain their identity amid centuries of upheaval? The mystery deepens when examining legends of secret retreats, mountain fortresses, and sacred sites inaccessible even today, where the royal bloodline could have been preserved. Were these places sanctuaries, guarded fiercely against invaders? Or perhaps spiritual refuges where Inca traditions thrived beyond official history's gaze? Mainstream historians generally accept that the Inca ruling family was effectively dismantled during the conquest. Yet gaps in the historical record allow room for alternative interpretations. Could fragments of the royal lineage have integrated into indigenous societies, quietly influencing local politics and culture? Did any members embark on clandestine journeys to safeguard their heritage, possibly beyond the continent's borders? Speculative theories propose even more enigmatic possibilities. Some suggest that descendants of the Inca rulers escaped to hidden enclaves or forged alliances with other indigenous groups, preserving lost knowledge and power. Others argue that cryptic symbols and artifacts scattered throughout the Andes may encode messages meant to protect or reveal the royal line's secrets to future generations. The complexity of the Inca legacy, woven through myth, history, and archaeology, raises profound questions about identity, survival, and cultural memory. What traces remain of a bloodline once believed to be divine? How much of their story has been erased or concealed deliberately or by circumstance? As we consider the lost royal bloodline of the Inca Empire, we are invited to look beyond the surface of conquest and loss. The Andes, with their silent peaks and hidden valleys, keep their secrets closely guarded. What echoes of an ancient dynasty still resonate in these remote lands? And what might be waiting just beyond our reach in the shadows of history? This enduring mystery calls us to reflect on the fragile threads that connect past and present, and on the possibility that some stories, like the lost Inca bloodline, continue to pulse quietly beneath the surface of the known world, waiting for discovery. From the mist-shrouded peaks of the Andes and the lost royal bloodline of the Incas, our journey now crosses the Mediterranean Sea to ancient Greece, a land where the foundations of Western literature and mythology were laid. Here, the epic tale of the Iliad has echoed through millennia, a timeless saga of gods, heroes, and war. Yet, beneath the grandeur of this ancient poem lies a persistent mystery that has intrigued scholars and seekers alike. Who truly authored the Iliad? The Iliad, traditionally attributed to the blind bard Homer, stands as one of the oldest and most influential works in human history. It recounts the final weeks of the Trojan War, weaving together divine intervention and mortal valor in a rich tapestry of narrative and poetry. Ancient manuscripts, oral traditions, and countless commentaries preserve its verses, yet the identity of its creator remains elusive. The world Homer inhabited was one where stories were passed down orally, evolving with each telling. Was the Iliad the work of a single visionary poet, or the cumulative creation of generations? Some historians suggest that Homer may not have been a person at all, but a symbolic figure representing a tradition of epic storytelling. Archaeological discoveries in ancient Troy and Mycenaean Greece provide glimpses into the historical context that may have inspired the poem. Yet, no direct evidence conclusively ties the text to a single individual. How could such a complex, unified masterpiece emerge from an oral culture? Was it shaped by a masterful bard who crafted the narrative, or a collective weaving of countless voices? Modern linguistic and stylistic analyses reveal inconsistencies and layers within the Iliad that challenge simple authorship. These patterns hint at revisions, additions, and regional influences that suggest a long process of compilation. Yet, amid this complexity, certain themes and images resonate with such depth and coherence that the question of the author's identity becomes all the more compelling. Some theories propose that multiple poets contributed to the Iliad over time, each adding their own insights and interpretations. Others entertain the possibility that Homer was a real individual, perhaps blind as tradition suggests, whose memory and creativity immortalized the tales. Fringe speculations even hint at mysterious origins, lost archives, divine inspiration, or secret schools of poetry that have vanished from history. What motivated the creation of the Iliad? Was it merely to entertain, or did it serve as a vessel for cultural memory, moral instruction, or even political power? How did the story evolve in a world before widespread literacy, where words were carried only by voice and memory? The enduring ambiguity surrounding the Iliad's authorship invites us to reflect on the nature of storytelling itself, its power to shape identity, preserve history, and connect humanity across time. Can we ever fully uncover the origins of a work so deeply embedded in human consciousness? Or is the mystery of Homer part of the poem's very essence, an invitation to listen closely to the voices of the past? As we ponder the true author of the Iliad, we step into a realm where history and legend intertwine, where every verse carries the weight of countless storytellers. What secrets linger within these ancient lines? And how much remains hidden beneath the surface of this epic masterpiece? The question remains open, an enduring enigma that continues to inspire wonder and scholarly pursuit. From the ancient epics of Greece and the whispered legacies of Inca royalty, our path now winds toward the distant shores of the Black Sea, where the medieval city of Trebizond, today's Trabzon in modern Turkey, stands as a silent witness to a fading chapter of imperial history. Here, amidst the fortress walls and bustling bazaars, lies the enigma of the Romanovs of Trebizond, a branch of the illustrious Byzantine imperial family whose disappearance has puzzled historians and intrigue seekers for centuries. The Empire of Trebizond, a successor state born from the fractured remains of Byzantium after the Fourth Crusade in 1204, endured for over 2 centuries, perched on the edge of empires and seas. It was a realm where ancient traditions blended with new alliances, and where the Romanov dynasty, distinct yet linked in name and blood to the later Russian rulers, held sway. Yet, as empires waned and borders shifted, the fate of the Romanovs in Trebizond slipped into obscurity. Records from the late 15th century document the last known rulers and noble families, but soon after, the trail grows cold. Some suggest they were absorbed into local aristocracy. Others say they fled in the face of Ottoman expansion, disappearing into exile or blending into foreign courts. But why is there so little trace of their ultimate destiny? How could a family of such prominence vanish so thoroughly from historical sight? Archaeological remnants in and around Trebizond reveal palatial ruins, inscriptions, and artifacts attesting to a vibrant court life. Yet the direct lineages of these Romanovs remain shrouded in mystery. Did their bloodline truly end in exile? Or did descendants survive in hidden enclaves, quietly preserving their heritage? And what role, if any, did political intrigue, betrayal, or conflict play in their disappearance? Mainstream history often views the fall of Trebizond as a final chapter closed by the Ottoman conquest in 1461, yet tantalizing whispers persist. Documents in forgotten archives, obscure genealogies, and local legends hinting at secret migrations. Could some Romanovs have escaped eastward or northward, sowing seeds for other noble houses? Might they have carried with them treasures, manuscripts, or knowledge that vanished along with their names? Speculative theories abound. Some propose that the Romanovs of Trebizond influenced later dynasties in Russia or even beyond Europe, while others suggest clandestine alliances that ensured their survival in exile. Could their disappearance be not a tragedy, but a strategic retreat, a reinvention under new identities? And if so, what secrets were safeguarded in silence? The mystery deepens when considering the political and cultural crossroads that Trebizond represented, a place where East met West, and where imperial legacies clashed with rising powers. How did these forces shape the fate of a family caught between worlds? What stories remain untold in the dusty archives and crumbling stones? As we contemplate the disappearance of the Romanovs of Trebizond, we are invited to reflect on the fragility of power and the ephemeral nature of history. How many dynasties have slipped quietly into the shadows, their stories lost or transformed? And what might still be waiting to be uncovered beneath layers of time, waiting for curious eyes to rediscover? The enigma of the Romanovs in Trebizond remains unresolved, an open question echoing through centuries. What truths lie buried beneath the ancient city's stones? And how much of their legacy endures, hidden in plain sight or forever beyond our reach? From the whispered legacies of medieval Trebizond and the vanished Romanovs, our journey now takes us deep into the lush jungles of Central America, where the remnants of a civilization long past lie etched in stone and time. Here, amidst towering temples and sacred plazas, the Mayan calendar emerges, a masterpiece of ancient astronomy that continues to captivate and confound modern scholars. The Mayan calendar is far more than a simple timekeeping device. Carved into stone monuments, painted on codices, and inscribed in the intricate glyphs of ancient cities like Tikal, Palenque, and Copan, it reveals a profound understanding of the cosmos. Remarkably, its calculations align with astonishing precision to the solar cycle as recognized by modern astronomy, an alignment that raises compelling questions about the origins and depth of Mayan astronomical knowledge. The Mayans divided their calendar into multiple interlocking cycles, including the Tzolk'in, Hab, and the Long Count. Among these, the Long Count is most notable for its role in marking vast epochs, spanning thousands of years, and for its correlation to the solar year, calculated to an accuracy that rivals contemporary measurements. How did this civilization, without telescopes or modern instruments, achieve such an exact understanding of Earth's orbit around the Sun? Archaeologists and historians credit the Mayans' careful observation of celestial bodies, the Sun, Moon, Venus, and other planets, combined with generations of meticulous record-keeping and oral tradition. Yet, the sophistication of their calendar has sparked debate. Was it purely the result of careful observation and intellectual rigor, or is there more to this mystery? Could there have been lost knowledge, perhaps transmitted from unknown sources, that guided the development of their astronomical systems? Inscriptions and artifacts hint at Mayan priests and astronomers who wielded extraordinary knowledge, using it not only for agriculture and ritual, but also to predict eclipses and planetary cycles. Their calendar was a cosmic map, reflecting a worldview where time was cyclical and intertwined with the rhythms of the heavens. But how did they refine their calculations to a degree of precision that modern science only confirmed centuries later? Some scholars speculate about possible external influences, contacts with other ancient cultures, or even hypothesized knowledge passed down through enigmatic means. Fringe theories propose connections with lost civilizations or interpret the calendar as encoding secrets beyond astronomy, perhaps touching on metaphysical concepts of time and existence. Regardless of these debates, the Mayan calendar remains a testament to human ingenuity and the deep curiosity that has driven civilizations to seek patterns in the sky. What drove the Mayans to develop such an exacting measure of solar time? Was it purely practical, or did it also serve a spiritual purpose, linking their lives to a cosmic order? As we stand before the carved stones and faded glyphs, we are reminded of how much knowledge can be encoded in symbols and how many mysteries endure beneath layers of history. The precision of the Mayan calendar invites us to wonder about the intersection of science, culture, and the unknown. How much did the Mayans understand about their place in the universe? And what other insights might their calendar hold, waiting to be uncovered by patient and curious minds? The mystery of the Mayan calendar's exact solar cycle remains an open question, an enduring puzzle bridging past and present, science and spirit. What secrets does this ancient calendar still guard, and what can it teach us about the timeless human quest to measure the heavens? From the intricate rhythms of the Mayan calendar, perfectly aligned with celestial cycles, our journey now leads us to a quiet medieval town nestled in the rolling hills of Lower Saxony, Germany, Hamelin. This seemingly tranquil place holds one of history's most haunting mysteries, the tale of the lost children of Hamelin. The year was 1284, and the town was struggling under the weight of a persistent rat infestation that threatened homes, food stores, and lives. According to the most enduring account, a mysterious piper arrived, dressed in a coat of many-colored cloth, offering his services to rid the town of its plague. With a haunting melody played on his pipe, he led the rats away, their bodies soon found lifeless in the nearby Weser River. Yet, when the town refused to pay the agreed sum, the piper returned, not for revenge against vermin, but for the children. On a bright morning, the children of Hamelin vanished. One by one, or in some versions, all at once, they followed the piper into the hills and disappeared, never to be seen again. The event left an indelible scar on the town's history, transforming a local legend into a chilling enigma that has captured imaginations for centuries. Historical documents, including town chronicles and legal records, confirm that a significant number of young people disappeared around this time, but the reasons remain elusive. Were they victims of disease, forced migration, or something more sinister? Did they succumb to an epidemic or join a traveling band of settlers seeking new lands? Or was the story of the piper a symbolic tale, a metaphor woven to explain a tragic event that defied simple explanation? Some historians argue that the disappearance could relate to the practice of child recruitment for military or colonial expeditions, while others suggest a catastrophic natural disaster or mass emigration. Yet, no conclusive evidence ties these theories definitively to the lost children. The ambiguity deepens when we consider similar tales from across Europe, stories of enchanted pipers and vanished children, raising questions about shared cultural fears and collective memory. Local archaeological finds hint at possible burial sites or settlements where missing youths might have lived or died, but the trail is fragmented and inconclusive. Oral traditions passed through generations speak of hidden caves, secret passages, and mysterious lights in the hills, adding layers of folklore to the factual mystery. Could these be echoes of an actual event, or the embellishments of storytelling? The lost children of Hamelin remain a puzzle, an intersection of history, myth, and human tragedy. What really happened to the children who followed the piper into the unknown? Were they lost to time, swallowed by fate, or perhaps living descendants of a forgotten migration? And how do such stories shape our understanding of the past, blending fact with the shadows of imagination? As we consider this enduring mystery, we are reminded that history is often written in whispers and half-truths, where the silence between the lines can be as revealing as the words themselves. The fate of Hamelin's children beckons us to look deeper, to question the boundaries between legend and reality. What remains hidden in the hills and forests near that medieval town? And how much of our past still lingers, waiting quietly beneath the surface to give us chills? From the shadows of medieval Europe's darkest hours, where tales of vanished children still linger, we now journey southward to the ancient lands of Italy, where the restless waters of the Busento River hold a secret whispered through the centuries, the elusive fate of Alaric's treasure. In 410 AD, Alaric I, king of the Visigoths, etched his name into history by sacking Rome, a city thought invincible. But while the fall of Rome was recorded in countless chronicles, it is the aftermath, the treasure he carried and what became of it, that remains cloaked in mystery. According to the historian Jordanes, after Alaric's death, his burial was unlike any other. The Visigoths diverted the flowing Busento River, burying their king and his immense treasure in its dry riverbed, then releasing the waters to cover the grave once more. And to ensure the secret remained undisturbed, the riverbed was said to be guarded by the very slaves who buried the hoard, only to be killed after their task was done. Yet, despite the striking vividness of this story, the treasure itself has never been found. The Busento still winds through the southern Italian landscape near Cosenza, its depths silent and still, seemingly holding its secrets close. Modern attempts to locate the burial site have met only frustration, the shifting riverbed and centuries of erosion obscuring any trace of what might lie beneath. What was in Alaric's treasure? Historical accounts suggest it included spoils from Rome's riches: gold, silver, priceless artifacts, and sacred objects taken during the sack, perhaps even the legendary imperial regalia. Such a trove would rival any found in ancient tombs. Could such wealth truly have vanished without a trace, swallowed by the river's flow and the passage of time? The tale, passed down by Roman and Gothic historians alike, blends fact and legend. Was the diversion of the river a strategic burial custom or a poetic invention to underscore Alaric's power? Did the Visigoths truly kill the slaves to seal the secret? Or is this a symbolic narrative about the irreversible loss of a great king's legacy? Archaeological explorations in the region have uncovered Roman ruins, artifacts, and burial sites, but none conclusively linked to Alaric or his fabled hoard. Some suggest the treasure might have been recovered in antiquity, scattered or hidden elsewhere, while others believe it could still lie submerged, protected by nature and time. More speculative theories venture beyond the Busento. Could the treasure have been moved, lost in the chaos of subsequent invasions and upheavals? Might some artifacts have found their way into distant lands, their origins forgotten, their value disguised as mere antiquities? And how does this story reflect the broader truth about the fragility of history itself? How easily legacies vanish into myth and memory? The mystery deepens when considering Alaric's role, not just as a conqueror, but as a pivotal figure bridging Roman and Gothic worlds. His burial could have been both an act of defiance and reverence, a final statement of power and transition. What symbolism did the Visigoths embed in this secret resting place? And what might the loss of the treasure say about the shifting tides of empire, culture, and memory? As we contemplate the still waters of the Busento, we are invited to reflect on the treasures that history has swallowed whole, those stories and relics that remain just beyond reach, tantalizing yet out of grasp. How much of the past lies hidden beneath riverbeds and ruins, waiting for the right moment or the right eye to uncover it? And what does the fate of Alaric's treasure tell us about the way history preserves, and sometimes obscures, the echoes of its most dramatic moments? The treasure of a king, lost in the flow of a river and the currents of time, remains one of history's most haunting enigmas. What secrets might still lie beneath the surface, silent and waiting? And how many more such mysteries are carried quietly in the rivers and shadows of our world? From the sun-scorched deserts near the Euphrates to the windswept plains of ancient Mesopotamia, history holds tales of empires rising and falling, battles won and lost. Among these, few stories resonate with such haunting mystery as that of the vanished legion of Marcus Licinius Crassus, a Roman force swallowed by the sands of time, their fate a puzzle that continues to captivate historians and archaeologists alike. The year was 53 BC. Crassus, a man of immense wealth and political ambition, sought to extend Rome's dominion eastward. His target, the Parthian Empire, a formidable power guarding the eastern frontier of Rome's vast territories. Leading an army said to number around 40,000 men, including the famed Legio Sextavinth, Eighth, and 19th, Crassus marched into unfamiliar terrain, eager for glory, but perhaps unprepared for the challenges ahead. The climax came at the Battle of Carrhae, near what is now southeastern Turkey. The Parthians, masters of mounted archery and swift tactics, engaged the Romans in a confrontation that would become legendary. The heavily armored legionaries found themselves vulnerable to relentless hit-and-run attacks, their formations broken and morale shattered. Crassus himself was killed, and his army was decimated in what many consider one of Rome's most catastrophic defeats. Yet the most enduring mystery is not simply the defeat, but the disappearance of Crassus's legion itself. Roman sources recount the annihilation in brutal terms, but what happened afterward remains obscure. Were the survivors entirely wiped out? Or did some manage to escape, scattering into the vast deserts or falling captive to the Parthians? And if so, what became of them? For centuries, the lost legion became the subject of rumors and speculation. Some accounts suggest that the Parthians took thousands of Roman prisoners who might have been marched eastwards into lands barely touched by Roman influence. Could these captives have been assimilated, their identities lost as they blended into distant tribes or settlements? Might there even be undiscovered descendants of Roman soldiers living far from the Mediterranean? Archaeological evidence in the region is scarce and inconclusive. The shifting sands and centuries of conflict have erased many traces of the battle and its aftermath. Some sites near Carrhae have yielded fragments of Roman military equipment, but none definitive enough to paint a full picture of the legion's fate. Has the desert concealed their final resting place, or perhaps a hidden settlement? More speculative theories invite us to look beyond traditional history. Could elements of the lost legion have become mercenaries or adventurers in foreign courts? Were they absorbed into Parthian armies, their tactics influencing a foe once thought invincible? Some fringe narratives even propose that these soldiers might have journeyed further east, touching regions as distant as Central Asia or China, sowing seeds of Roman influence far beyond what the written records suggest. The enigmatic disappearance also raises questions about the reliability and completeness of ancient sources. Roman historians wrote with political agendas and limited perspectives. Is it possible that the full story was deliberately obscured, hidden in the shadows to protect the empire's pride? Or did the legion's remnants simply vanish into the turbulent history of the region, swallowed by waves of later conquests and migrations? The legacy of Crassus's lost legion resonates with deeper themes of ambition, hubris, and the unpredictable nature of history. Here was an empire at its height, yet vulnerable to the perils of geography, culture, and warfare. The story forces us to ponder how many chapters of the past remain unwritten, lost in deserts and dust, waiting for rediscovery. As we consider the vanished legion, we are invited to reflect on the limits of human knowledge and memory. What stories lie hidden beneath layers of earth and time? How much of history's great tapestry is woven from fragments and echoes, shaped by both fact and the gaps between? And above all, what truths might still be uncovered about those brave souls who marched eastward, never to be seen again? The mystery of Crassus's legion endures, an open question lingering at the crossroads of history, legend, and archaeology. What became of the men who vanished beyond the horizon? And what secrets does the desert keep, waiting silently for those who dare to seek them? It was the summer of 1483, and a kingdom stood on the precipice of great change. In England, the air was thick with uncertainty. The reigning monarch, King Edward IV, had recently passed away, leaving behind two young sons, Edward V and Richard, Duke of York. By law, Edward V, at just 12 years old, was next in line to the throne. Yet the journey to his coronation would be one shadowed by tragedy. Edward V's death, his mysterious and untimely disappearance, remains one of the most unsettling enigmas in the history of the British monarchy. His fate is a puzzle that has been pieced together through centuries of speculation, intrigue, and historical examination. But still, the truth evades us. At the center of this tragedy lies the Tower of London, that foreboding fortress whose stone walls have witnessed countless secrets, betrayals, and untold horrors. In the summer of 1483, Edward V and his younger brother Richard were sent there under the guardianship of their uncle, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, later to become Richard III. The boys were meant to wait in the tower until Edward's formal coronation, but the ceremony never came, and neither did the boys. In the months that followed, the young princes were never seen in public again. Their absence was explained away by rumors, political maneuvering, and silence. No official account of their deaths emerged, only a chilling void where once there had been royal heirs. What exactly happened within the cold walls of the tower? What transpired in the shadowed corners of that fortress, places where light rarely reaches, and where whispers of conspiracy still haunt the stone? Historically, it's easy to look back and point to the most immediate suspect, Richard III, who, after the sudden death of his brother Edward IV, quickly declared himself the rightful king. Many argue that Richard had the motive, the opportunity, and perhaps even the means to eliminate his young nephews, whose existence threatened his own grasp on power. He was, after all, the man who would later be labeled the hunchbacked villain by Shakespeare and history alike. But could Richard truly have murdered his own blood to secure his throne? Could a man so closely tied to the monarchy so coldly erase his lineage to take the crown? According to the official accounts of the time, Richard claimed that the young princes were taken from the tower by the orders of their own guardian, the Duke of Gloucester, who, in a strange twist, had already taken power as regent. Richard's own rise to the throne was swift and sure, but the fate of the two boys was wrapped in mystery. However, what happened next is what has left generations of historians and amateurs alike obsessed with the case. The disappearance of the princes was followed by silence, and then the eventual claim that the boys had died in the tower. Some say that they were murdered. Others suggest they may have fallen ill, weakened by the harsh and confined conditions of their imprisonment. But these explanations are incomplete, leaving a gap between the established facts and the lingering questions. For centuries, the mystery has sparked theories that stretch the imagination. Some insist that the boys were not killed by Richard, but rather by others within his court, perhaps members of a faction seeking to bring down the new king. Others suggest that the princes were secretly taken away and hidden in the countryside, away from the prying eyes of the court. In 1674, workmen who were repairing a staircase in the Tower of London stumbled upon two small, ancient skeletons buried beneath the steps. Could these remains be those of the lost princes? Skeptics remain unconvinced, pointing out the flaws in the identification process and questioning whether the bones were indeed those of the royal children, or perhaps of other, less significant figures. What if the death of Edward V was something far more extraordinary than mere political intrigue? Could it be that the mystery surrounding his death speaks to something darker, something more deeply hidden beneath the history we know? Consider this. The disappearance of the two princes came at a time of extreme tension. The Wars of the Roses, a series of bloody dynastic conflicts, were nearing their end. But the question of who truly held the crown was far from settled. The very nature of royal legitimacy was under siege, and the claim of Edward V as the son of a recently deceased king posed a threat to those who would seek power for themselves. Could Edward V have been swept away by the treacherous tides of political ambition? Was his death an act of necessity by those who feared the strength of the Tudor faction rising in the background? After all, it was the Tudors, under Henry VII, who would eventually take the throne, ending the Wars of the Roses for good. Was Edward V a pawn in the game that ultimately led to the creation of a new royal line? As time has passed, some have cast doubt on the historical narrative itself, suggesting that Edward VI's death could have been the result of a conspiracy far larger than any one man. Could it have been orchestrated by more than one individual or faction, each with their own motivations and goals? Speculation on the exact cause of death has remained ever present, but little hard evidence exists. And as the centuries have passed, the line between fact and fiction has blurred. Scholars point to written accounts and royal documents from the period, but many are incomplete, ambiguous, or contradictory. Were these accounts truly reflective of what happened, or were they colored by the interests of those who wrote them, men with their own agenda, shaping the narrative to their own advantage? And then, there is the question of the boy's fate. Did they die in the tower, as most historians agree, or could they have escaped? Were the princes secretly spirited away in the dead of night, disappearing from history to live out their lives in exile? The idea is tantalizing. What if the boys were not victims of their uncle's ambition, but instead became secret figures, hiding in plain sight, their lives deliberately obscured to ensure their safety? Could their deaths have been staged to prevent a confrontation that would have thrown the monarchy into chaos? Perhaps the most troubling aspect of the mystery is that we may never know the full truth. For while the passing of centuries has allowed us to examine the death of King Edward V and his brother from every conceivable angle, the answers are still veiled in the shadows. New theories and discoveries arise from time to time, but they never seem to reveal a definitive answer. Like the tower itself, the mystery of Edward V's death looms large and dark, its secrets hidden in the depths of history. There are those who argue that the mystery will one day be solved, that further research into long-lost royal documents or the careful examination of the skeletal remains might reveal the truth. Yet there are others who wonder if some secrets are simply too dangerous to be uncovered, buried forever in the annals of history to prevent the world from knowing what truly occurred on those fateful days in 1483. As we leave this chapter of the mystery, one thing is clear. The death of King Edward V remains an open question, a riddle wrapped in a royal mystery that will forever haunt the imagination. The truth, whatever it may be, lies hidden somewhere, buried deep in the past, waiting to be discovered, or perhaps never to be revealed at all. Deep within the caves of Qumran, nestled along the shores of the Dead Sea, one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the 20th century was made. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, the world was stunned by the revelation of the Dead Sea Scrolls, thousands of ancient manuscripts that had been hidden away for nearly 2 millennia. These fragile scraps of parchment, inscribed with Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek texts, provided an extraordinary window into the religious and cultural world of ancient Judaism. shedding light on the roots of Christianity and the complex history of the Jewish people. But as incredible as the discovery was, it came with its own set of mysteries. Among the scrolls that were recovered from the caves, some were famously lost to history. Entire sections of the ancient archive disappeared almost as quickly as they were found, slipping through the cracks of time and human error. And though the world now holds many of these sacred texts in museums and libraries, there are still questions that linger, questions that reach beyond the confines of historical fact and into the realm of the unknown. What happened to the missing Dead Sea Scrolls, and what might they have contained? Could the lost fragments still hold secrets capable of reshaping our understanding of the past? The story begins with the discovery of the first scrolls in 1947, when a Bedouin shepherd named Muhammad ed-Dib stumbled upon a cave near the Dead Sea. Inside, he found a collection of scrolls, their delicate edges curling with age. Recognizing their potential importance, he brought them to the attention of local antiquities dealers, setting off a chain of events that would lead to one of the most significant archaeological finds in modern history. Over the next decade, archaeologists and scholars painstakingly recovered thousands of scroll fragments from 11 caves around Qumran. The scrolls offered a glimpse into an ancient world. Among the texts discovered were copies of books from the Hebrew Bible, including some of the earliest surviving versions of the Old Testament. These ancient manuscripts revealed fascinating variations from the traditional texts known to scholars and, in many cases, offered insights into the religious practices and beliefs of the Jewish community during the Second Temple period. The discovery also included works that were previously unknown, such as the Community Rule, a document that outlined the teachings and governance of the mysterious Essene sect, a group that is thought to have lived in the Qumran area during the time of Jesus. But as the scrolls began to be cataloged, something unsettling emerged. Not all of the texts were recovered. Several of the caves where the scrolls had been found contained far more material than was initially retrieved. And even as scholars worked to piece together what they had, other fragments seemed to vanish mysteriously from view. Some of the scrolls were sold to private collectors before being officially examined. Others were removed from their archaeological contexts, making it difficult to determine whether they were part of the original collection or whether they had been taken from another source. In some cases, fragments were simply lost in the chaos of a global search for the precious documents. One of the most famous missing pieces is the so-called Temple Scroll, a massive manuscript containing detailed instructions on the construction of a future Jewish temple. The scroll was discovered in 1956, but only a small portion of it has ever been publicly displayed. According to reports, the rest of the scroll was lost during the chaotic years following its discovery, and its whereabouts remain unknown. What could the rest of the Temple Scroll have revealed? Did it contain esoteric teachings or prophecies that could change our understanding of religious history? But the disappearance of the scrolls is not limited to the Temple Scroll. There have been persistent rumors of other texts that were either lost or deliberately hidden. Some scholars believe that entire sections of the collection were removed by individuals with vested interests in suppressing certain ideas. Others suggest that some of the scrolls may have been deliberately destroyed, burned, or disintegrated by the harsh environment of the Dead Sea. What, then, might have been lost to history? Could there have been scrolls that contained hidden teachings, controversial writings that might have challenged established religious doctrines? There are those who speculate that certain fragments may have been deliberately withheld from the public due to their content. Could the missing scrolls have included early Christian writings that would alter our understanding of the relationship between Judaism and Christianity? Might they have contained stories, teachings, or texts that would force us to rethink the very foundation of Western religion? One of the more tantalizing theories suggests that the missing scrolls may have been linked to the so-called Gnostic Gospels. texts that diverge from the traditional narrative found in the Bible and present a radically different view of Christian history. Some scholars argue that the Dead Sea Scrolls could contain references to these alternative Gospels, or even direct links to the lost books of the early Church. If this is the case, could the missing scrolls offer a window into the secretive, contested world of early Christianity? Others have posited more speculative explanations. Some claim that the scrolls could have been intentionally hidden by the Essenes themselves, secreted away for future generations to find when the time was right. Could these ancient manuscripts be part of an ongoing spiritual journey, waiting to be rediscovered at a time when their message is needed most? Or could they be tied to the apocalyptic visions that some scholars believe were part of the Essenes' worldview, suggesting that the missing scrolls were never meant to be found until a particular moment in history? The mystery deepens when one considers the way in which the scrolls have been handled by modern authorities. Despite their extraordinary significance, the process of studying and publishing the Dead Sea Scrolls has been fraught with controversy. Some have argued that scholars were deliberately slow in releasing information to the public, with portions of the scrolls kept under wraps for decades. It wasn't until the late 1990s that the majority of the scrolls were made available for study, raising questions about why certain pieces were kept from public view for so long. Was this a simple case of bureaucratic delay, or was there something more to the secrecy surrounding these ancient texts? Moreover, the black market for ancient artifacts has long been a shadowy realm in which priceless relics change hands in secrecy. Could some of the missing scrolls have ended up in private collections, hidden from the view of the public and scholars alike? The idea that some of these texts are still circulating in secret auctions, buried in private vaults, or held by unknown collectors has captivated the imaginations of those who seek to unlock the final secrets of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Despite the advances in technology and scholarship over the years, the mystery of the missing Dead Sea Scrolls remains unsolved. The fragments that remain, some still painstakingly pieced together after years of research, continue to provide a wealth of knowledge. But for those determined to uncover the full scope of the discovery, the unanswered questions remain as haunting as ever. What truths might still lie hidden within the caves of Qumran? And might the missing scrolls, buried in the shifting sands of time, one day emerge, bringing with them a revelation that will once again change the course of history? As we continue to search for answers, the mystery endures, inviting us to look deeper, question further, and wonder what ancient secrets are waiting to be uncovered. The tale of the Spartan 300 has been etched into history, celebrated and immortalized by poets, historians, and storytellers alike. Their heroic stand against the Persian Empire at the Battle of Thermopylae in 480 BCE is often regarded as one of the most poignant and valiant acts of defiance ever recorded. Led by King Leonidas, these warriors held the narrow pass of Thermopylae for 3 days against an overwhelming force, fighting with unparalleled courage until their death. Their sacrifice has since become the epitome of bravery, honor, and selflessness. Yet, as much as we know about their final battle, we know strikingly little about their final resting place. The burial site of the Spartan 300 remains one of the most perplexing mysteries of the ancient world, an enigma that has eluded archaeologists and historians for centuries. The last traces of where these legendary warriors were buried have never been definitively found, and in a land where so many ancient artifacts and ruins have been uncovered, the absence of their graves stands out as a haunting void in history. What happened to the tombs of the Spartan 300? Why, after over 2 millennia, have they seemingly vanished? Was their burial site deliberately erased from the historical record, or have the sands of time simply hidden it from our view? This question lingers, as historians, archaeologists, and enthusiasts alike continue to speculate about the fate of these heroes' remains. The battle itself, fought in the narrow Thermopylae Pass, was one of the most significant in ancient warfare. Though the Greeks were outnumbered, their strategy, positioning themselves in the narrow pass, was a masterstroke, allowing them to hold back a vast Persian army led by King Xerxes. When the battle ended, the Spartans were defeated, but their sacrifice ensured that their story would live on for centuries. According to ancient sources, after the battle, King Leonidas's body was mutilated by the Persians, but the remains of the 300 were reportedly collected by their fellow Greeks and given a respectful burial. The precise location of that burial has remained a matter of historical debate ever since. The ancient historian Herodotus notes that the Spartans were honored with a mound, or soros, at the site of their death, but offers no further details. Other sources, such as Plutarch, mention that the burial occurred near the battlefield, yet no clear evidence has ever been found to confirm the exact spot. For centuries, scholars have sifted through ancient texts and manuscripts, searching for any clue that might lead them to the final resting place of these legendary warriors. Some accounts suggest that the Spartans were interred within the very pass they defended, while others claim they were buried on the nearby plains. But despite numerous excavations and surveys, no remains or burial markers from the battle have ever been uncovered. The lack of definitive evidence has only fueled speculation. Some researchers have proposed that the Spartan burial site was deliberately erased by the Persians after their victory, as an act of humiliation. The mutilation of Leonidas's body, as recorded by Herodotus, suggests a desire to degrade the memory of the Spartans, and it's not outside the realm of possibility that their graves were destroyed or relocated in a deliberate attempt to erase their legacy. Others have speculated that the burial site may have been lost due to the passage of time. Thermopylae, like many ancient battlefields, has undergone significant geological and human transformation over the centuries. Shifting landscapes, erosion, and even the construction of roads and settlements could have obscured the site. In fact, the landscape around Thermopylae has changed so much that even modern archaeologists are unsure where the exact location of the battle took place. Could the graves have been swallowed by nature itself, buried beneath centuries of shifting earth and sediment? And then there are the more unconventional theories, ones that venture into the realm of speculation and intrigue. Could the Spartan burial site have been deliberately hidden, not by the Persians, but by the Greeks themselves? The notion that the Spartans might have wanted to keep their burial site a secret is not as far-fetched as it may seem. The Spartans were known for their warrior ethos and for keeping their deeds shrouded in mystery. Could it be that their final resting place was intentionally concealed to protect it from looters or future invaders? If so, who would have had the power and motivation to keep such a secret? Further fueling this speculation is the possibility that the Spartans' tombs might lie hidden in plain sight. Thermopylae is situated near a series of natural hot springs and steep cliffs, terrain that has been both a natural and strategic barrier throughout history. Could the graves of the 300 lie somewhere within this difficult-to-reach region, carefully hidden away from discovery? Some believe that the graves may have been camouflaged by nature or that they lie under layers of earth, waiting for the right set of circumstances to reveal them. Another theory suggests that the burial site could have been lost during the many centuries of conquest and upheaval that have shaped Greece's history. After the fall of the Greek city-states, various empires and invaders, including the Romans, Byzantines, and Ottomans, occupied the region. It is entirely possible that the site of the burial was lost to these conquerors, either unintentionally or due to deliberate neglect, as it fell from public memory over the years. Despite the absence of physical evidence, modern technology has allowed researchers to take new approaches to the mystery. Advanced ground-penetrating radar, satellite imagery, and excavation techniques could offer new ways to locate potential burial sites, but no clear evidence has yet emerged. In fact, One of the most frustrating aspects of the search for the Spartan burial site is how close, yet how far, we have come. Archaeologists have found a wealth of artifacts from the region, including inscriptions, coins, and remnants of ancient fortifications, but no human remains from the battle itself have been conclusively identified. Some have even speculated that the Spartan 300 may not have been buried together at all. Given the scale of the battle, it is conceivable that their remains were scattered across the battlefield or moved to separate locations. This would explain why no large, cohesive burial site has been found, though it leaves the question of where these warriors were finally laid to rest open for further exploration. Perhaps one of the most haunting aspects of this mystery is that, despite the reverence and admiration the Spartans commanded during their lives and after their deaths, their final resting place has never been fully revealed. Why, after all, would the burial of such a celebrated group of warriors remain so elusive? Was their burial site hidden intentionally, lost by accident, or simply erased by time? Could the answer lie buried beneath the earth, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered? The disappearance of the Spartan 300's burial site is a puzzle that may never be solved, leaving us to wonder whether history, in its relentless march forward, has deliberately obscured some of its greatest secrets. As we continue to search for clues, the mystery remains, an unanswered question in the great narrative of the past, calling us to delve deeper, question more, and wonder what truths may still lie buried in the soil of Thermopylae. In the heart of Italy, beneath the layers of history, there once thrived a civilization that left behind a legacy both brilliant and mysterious. The Etruscans, who lived in the central region of what is now Tuscany, Lazio, and Umbria, were an enigmatic people whose influence stretched far beyond their borders. Their cities flourished in the centuries before the rise of Rome, and their culture, rich in art, religion, and language, left an indelible mark on the ancient world. Yet, despite their prominence, the true identity of the Etruscans remains one of history's great mysteries. What we know of them is fragmentary at best. The Greeks and Romans wrote about them, but these accounts are often colored by bias, and their interpretation is fraught with ambiguity. Modern archaeology has uncovered the remains of their cities, their tombs, and their artifacts. But still, the question lingers. Who were the Etruscans? Where did they come from? And why did their civilization, once so powerful, vanish from the historical stage, leaving behind little more than tantalizing clues? The Etruscan civilization thrived from the 8th century BCE to around the 3rd century BCE, reaching its peak in the 6th century BCE, a time when their influence stretched from the shores of the Tyrrhenian Sea to the heart of the Italian peninsula. Their cities, such as Tarquinia, Cerveteri, and Veii, were sophisticated urban centers, complete with monumental architecture, advanced engineering, and a rich artistic tradition. They had their own unique alphabet, their own gods and goddesses, and their own system of governance. And yet, for all of this, their origins remain a puzzle. The ancient Greeks, who had frequent contact with the Etruscans, described them as a mysterious people whose origins were uncertain. Some Greek writers, such as Herodotus, suggested that the Etruscans were originally from Asia Minor, specifically from the region around Lydia in modern-day Turkey. According to this theory, a great migration occurred around the 12th century BCE, when the Etruscans were supposedly driven westward by internal strife or natural disasters. Other ancient sources, however, suggested that the Etruscans were indigenous to Italy, developing their unique culture in isolation. The truth, however, remains elusive. One of the most intriguing aspects of Etruscan history is their language. Unlike Latin or Greek, both of which belong to the Indo-European language family, Etruscan is a language isolate, meaning it has no known relationship to any other language in the world. This makes it incredibly difficult to decipher and has led to decades of scholarly debate. Though scholars have made significant progress in understanding the basic structure of Etruscan, many of its inscriptions remain undeciphered, leaving large gaps in our understanding of the Etruscan worldview, beliefs, and social structure. While many Etruscan words and phrases have been identified, their meanings often remain unclear. Some scholars have suggested that the language was influenced by Greek or Phoenician, while others believe that it may have had ties to other ancient languages in the Mediterranean. Yet, despite these theories, no one has been able to definitively link Etruscan to any known language group, making the question of their linguistic origins all the more perplexing. Adding to the mystery is the Etruscan pantheon. The Etruscans had a rich and complex religious system, with a vast array of gods and goddesses who governed various aspects of life. Some of these deities were later adopted by the Romans, such as Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva. However, many of the Etruscan gods remain elusive and poorly understood. Their religious practices, including divination, augury, and the interpretation of omens, were deeply ingrained in Etruscan society. The Etruscans believed in an intricate system of cosmic forces, and their religious rituals were designed to maintain harmony with these forces. Yet, despite the wealth of religious artifacts and inscriptions, the full extent of their beliefs and practices is lost to time. In addition to their religious and artistic achievements, the Etruscans were also known for their skill in metallurgy, particularly in the production of bronze and iron. Their tombs, often lavishly adorned with frescoes, sculptures, and treasures, offer a glimpse into their sophisticated society. The famous Etruscan burial sites at Cerveteri and Tarquinia, with their elaborate tombs and murals depicting scenes of daily life, are among the most striking legacies of their civilization. Yet, despite the opulence of their tombs, the Etruscans left behind no monumental written records that could provide direct insight into their history. Most of what we know comes from the accounts of Greek and Roman writers, many of whom were biased in their portrayal of the Etruscans, often depicting them as decadent, mysterious, and even barbaric. As we delve deeper into the mystery of the Etruscans, we begin to encounter theories that stretch beyond the conventional explanations. Could the Etruscans have been the descendants of a much older civilization, one whose roots go back further than the ancient Mediterranean world? Some fringe theories suggest that the Etruscans might have had links to ancient Egypt, or even to lost civilizations such as Atlantis. These theories are based on the similarities between certain Etruscan and Egyptian religious symbols, as well as the remarkable knowledge of astronomy and mathematics displayed by the Etruscans. While these ideas remain speculative at best, they raise the question of whether the Etruscans were part of a wider, forgotten tradition of ancient knowledge that has since been lost to history. Another theory posits that the Etruscans were not an isolated civilization at all, but rather part of a broader network of peoples who interacted across the Mediterranean. Evidence of trade between the Etruscans and the Greeks, Phoenicians, and Egyptians suggests that they were not only aware of other cultures but actively participated in the exchange of goods, ideas, and technology. Could the Etruscans have been a cultural melting pot, absorbing influences from all corners of the ancient world? And if so, how might these influences have shaped their identity? And why did their culture ultimately fade as Rome rose to power? Yet perhaps the most compelling mystery is why the Etruscans vanished so suddenly from history. By the 3rd century BCE, their cities had been absorbed into the growing power of Rome. While many Etruscan customs, religious practices, and art forms influenced Roman culture, the Etruscans themselves disappeared from the historical record. Did they simply merge into Roman society, their unique identity fading into the background, or was there a more dramatic cause for their disappearance? Some historians believe that the Etruscans' decline was a result of internal strife, invasion, or the economic pressures of growing Roman expansion. Others suggest that the Etruscans, once proud and powerful, were overwhelmed by the sheer force of Roman assimilation. As we sift through the ruins and artifacts left behind by the Etruscans, the question of their origins and identity remains unresolved. We know that they were a people of remarkable sophistication and creativity, but the core of their existence, their language, their beliefs, their very nature, remains an enigma. Could it be that the Etruscans were a unique civilization, unlike any other in the ancient world? Or did they simply represent one link in a chain of cultures, each fading into obscurity as time passed? The mystery of the Etruscans remains, inviting us to look deeper, question more, and wonder what truths might still be hidden beneath the surface of their forgotten history. Amid the vast expanse of the Sahara Desert, where the winds sweep across endless dunes and the sun casts its golden glow over the ancient city of Timbuktu, there lies a mystery that has long captivated historians, archaeologists, and scholars. This once great center of learning and culture, nestled at the crossroads of trade routes in West Africa, was home to a library whose contents were said to rival the greatest collections of knowledge in the world. The Lost Library of Timbuktu, a name that evokes visions of ancient scrolls, manuscripts, and forgotten wisdom, represents one of history's most intriguing and elusive puzzles. Timbuktu's rise to prominence came during the height of the Mali Empire in the 14th and 15th centuries, a time when it was renowned as a hub of scholarship, culture, and intellectual pursuit. It was here in this remote desert city that some of the most significant texts on law, science, medicine, mathematics, and literature were penned and stored. The city became a beacon of learning in a world where knowledge was often hoarded by a few privileged elites, and it attracted scholars from all over Africa, the Middle East, and even Europe. Timbuktu wasn't just a trading center for gold, salt, and ivory. It was a center of knowledge, a place where the written word held great power. The fabled libraries of Timbuktu were said to contain thousands of manuscripts, some written in Arabic, others in the local languages of the region, covering everything from astronomy to poetry, theology to medicine. The most famous of these texts were housed in the city's great educational institutions, such as the University of Sankore, which was renowned throughout the Muslim world for its intellectual achievements. But while many of these manuscripts were valued for their scholarly content, they were equally important as symbols of an African intellectual tradition that thrived long before European colonialism and the so-called Age of Discovery. Yet, despite the cultural wealth contained within these manuscripts, the Library of Timbuktu has never been fully recovered. While some of the texts were dispersed, lost to time, or destroyed, others seem to have simply vanished. Today, the question lingers. What happened to the lost library of Timbuktu? What knowledge did it hold, and where is it now? The first clues about the significance of Timbuktu's libraries came from travelers, historians, and scholars in the 16th and 17th centuries. These accounts described the city's libraries in glowing terms, noting the vast number of manuscripts that were stored in private homes, mosques, and other buildings. The famous Moroccan traveler Ibn Battuta, who visited Timbuktu in the 14th century, described it as a city of scholars, where the pursuit of knowledge was revered above all else. It was said that the city's wealth of intellectual resources could rival the great libraries of Alexandria and Baghdad. The manuscripts themselves were as diverse as the city's population. Many were handwritten in Arabic, reflecting the influence of Islam, which had spread across West Africa in the centuries before. However, others were written in local languages, employing a script known as Ajami, which used Arabic letters to represent African languages. This mix of Arabic and indigenous scripts speaks to the blending of African, Arab, and Berber cultures in the region. For many scholars, the manuscripts contained not only religious and philosophical texts, but also invaluable works on subjects like astronomy, geography, and history, subjects that might have reshaped our understanding of Africa's intellectual history. But as the centuries passed, the fate of these manuscripts became more uncertain. The gradual decline of the Mali Empire in the 16th century, coupled with the rise of the Songhai Empire and later European colonization, marked the beginning of a turbulent period for Timbuktu. The city was attacked multiple times, and its libraries, along with its scholars, were scattered, plundered, or destroyed. The most significant blow came in the 19th century, when the French, during their colonial conquest of West Africa, not only took control of Timbuktu, but also ravaged its cultural heritage. Many of the manuscripts were lost or burned, and what remained was hidden away in the hopes of preservation. Yet, as if answering the call of history, a small number of these manuscripts managed to survive, secretly safeguarded by the descendants of the scholars who had once written them. In the 20th and 21st centuries, as Mali gained independence and Timbuktu became an emblem of Africa's intellectual heritage, researchers and local historians began to recover fragments of the library. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of manuscripts have resurfaced in private collections, and their discovery has reignited interest in the lost library. However, these recovered manuscripts are only a fraction of what was once held in the city's libraries. The exact number of texts that have been lost or destroyed remains unknown, and many of the surviving manuscripts are still in precarious conditions, vulnerable to the ravages of time, climate, and political instability. The region has faced ongoing challenges in recent years, including the rise of extremist groups, civil war, and instability, which has threatened both the manuscripts and the people who safeguard them. In 2012, Timbuktu was briefly occupied by Islamist militants who destroyed many ancient tombs and damaged libraries, including those that housed some of the surviving manuscripts. It was a reminder of just how fragile this precious heritage is. Despite the best efforts of scholars, archaeologists, and cultural custodians, many of the manuscripts remain locked away in private hands, inaccessible to the public eye. Some scholars believe that a significant portion of the library's collection was either hidden away for safekeeping or lost in the chaos of political upheaval. Could it be that some of these ancient texts still lie buried in the sands of the Sahara, waiting to be uncovered? Or is it possible that they were deliberately hidden to protect them from those who sought to erase Timbuktu's history? As we examine the surviving manuscripts, we are left to wonder what lost knowledge they contain. Some of the recovered texts, such as those related to astronomy and mathematics, demonstrate that the scholars of Timbuktu had a sophisticated understanding of the cosmos, an understanding that predates many Western discoveries. What other intellectual treasures may still be waiting to be discovered? Could there be secrets within the manuscripts that could change our understanding of history, science, or even the development of human thought? While some manuscripts have been digitized and made available for scholarly study, much of the knowledge contained within the lost library remains hidden. And even with modern technology and research methods, the sheer scope of the library's once glorious collection makes it difficult to fully comprehend what has been lost. What other great works of literature, philosophy, or science could have been contained in the original library? And how many more manuscripts scattered across the globe still await rediscovery? The mystery of the lost library of Timbuktu is not simply a story of the past. It is a story still unfolding, one that raises profound questions about memory, identity, and the preservation of knowledge. What happens to the intellectual legacy of a people when their cultural heritage is threatened, forgotten, or erased? And how can we, as a global community, ensure that the knowledge contained in such treasures is not lost to history once again? Timbuktu's lost library, along with the manuscripts that survive, remains a symbol of the fragility of human knowledge. In an age where information can be easily stored, shared, and accessed, the loss of such ancient repositories serves as a sobering reminder of what has been lost and what still remains hidden beneath the surface of time. Perhaps, as we continue to explore the vast desert landscape that surrounds Timbuktu, the wind will one day reveal more of the city's secrets, whispers of a time when knowledge was both a powerful force and a fragile treasure held in the hands of those who dared to write it down. In the rugged and unforgiving landscape of the Armenian highlands, an astonishing discovery was made, a discovery that has left archaeologists and historians alike in a state of bewilderment. Deep within a cave, nestled in the mountainous region of Armenia, a perfectly preserved leather shoe was found, one that had remained untouched for over 5,500 years. But what makes this shoe so extraordinary isn't just its age or its remarkable state of preservation. It's the fact that its stitching, its craftsmanship, and the techniques used to create it bear a striking resemblance to those employed in modern shoemaking. How could this be? How could a piece of clothing from such a distant era contain features so advanced, so intricate, that they seem to belong to a much later time? The shoe in question was found in a well-preserved archaeological site called the Arenai I Cave, located in southern Armenia. This region, rich in both natural resources and cultural history, had long been a place of human habitation, and it has yielded numerous artifacts that have shed light on the lives of those who lived there thousands of years ago. But this particular find was unlike any other. When the shoe was uncovered in 2008, its condition was nothing short of extraordinary. Made from a single piece of leather, it had been carefully shaped to fit the foot and sewn together using a complex technique that was thought to have been developed much later in history. The shoe, with its unique design and modern-like stitching, challenges the assumptions we hold about ancient craftsmanship. It is clear that the people who created it possessed a remarkable knowledge of leatherworking, even more advanced than what we would expect from a civilization living during the Neolithic period, a time when agriculture was just beginning to take root and human societies were still in their infancy. Upon closer inspection, the shoe reveals several features that stand out to even the most seasoned archaeologists. The stitching, for example, is done using a method known as overcast stitching, a technique that was not thought to be in use until much later in history, perhaps as late as the medieval period. The leather itself, surprisingly well preserved, was fashioned to form a snug, durable shoe, suggesting that its maker had a deep understanding of how to create a functional, long-lasting piece of clothing. In fact, the craftsmanship displayed in this shoe is so sophisticated that some researchers have speculated that it could have been made by someone who had access to advanced techniques or tools that were far ahead of their time. How is this possible? How could a shoe made over 5,000 years ago exhibit such advanced techniques? Some have proposed that the craftsmen of this time were simply far more skilled than we have historically given them credit for. After all, the Neolithic period was a time of tremendous technological advancement, with humans beginning to experiment with new materials and techniques to make their lives easier. It is not unthinkable that the people of this era possessed a level of expertise in certain areas, such as footwear, that was simply lost to history, only to be rediscovered thousands of years later. But the mystery deepens when we consider the possibility of outside influence. Could there have been an advanced civilization, long lost to time, that shared its knowledge with early humans? Could the shoe be evidence of a forgotten culture, one that possessed technologies and techniques that were lost to antiquity? The idea that an ancient people could have had access to such advanced knowledge that was somehow passed down or rediscovered, is a tantalizing possibility, but one that remains speculative at best. Another intriguing aspect of this discovery is the context in which the shoe was found. The Arenai I Cave is a site known for its wealth of prehistoric artifacts, including evidence of early winemaking. Researchers have uncovered remnants of wine presses, fermentation vats, and even grape seeds that suggest the inhabitants of this cave were among the first to produce wine on a large scale. But alongside these agricultural and domestic finds, the shoe stands out as a symbol of the sophisticated culture that once thrived in this region. The people who lived here, it seems, were not just concerned with subsistence. They were also concerned with craft, with artistry, and with the creation of objects that could endure. The implications of the discovery go beyond footwear. The craftsmanship demonstrated in the shoe suggests that the Neolithic people of this region were capable of creating other complex objects, tools, clothing, and perhaps even architectural structures that we have yet to fully understand. Could it be that we have underestimated the technological capabilities of ancient civilizations? And if so, what else might be hidden beneath the surface of our historical assumptions? As is often the case with archaeological discoveries, the shoe from Arini I has prompted more questions than answers. While the evidence is clear, this is an ancient shoe, perfectly preserved and sophisticated in its design, the reasons behind its remarkable features remain elusive. Could it simply be a testament to the skill and innovation of its creator? Or does it represent a more profound mystery, one that hints at knowledge lost to time? Some scholars have suggested that the advanced stitching technique used in the shoe could be the result of a natural evolution in craftsmanship. Over the course of thousands of years, the people of this region may have refined their skills in leatherworking, developing increasingly complex techniques. In this light, the shoe would be an example of the gradual progress that can occur over millennia, an achievement made possible by trial and error, innovation, and the passing down of knowledge through generations. Yet this doesn't explain the striking resemblance of the shoe's stitching to modern techniques. Others have speculated that the shoe could be the product of a much older civilization, one that left behind only fragments of its advanced technology. Perhaps this civilization, lost to history, possessed a level of expertise that was either shared with or discovered by the early inhabitants of the Armenian highlands. This theory, though intriguing, lacks concrete evidence, leaving it in the realm of speculation. Could the shoe represent something even more mysterious? Could it be the result of time travel, or the work of an advanced culture that somehow managed to leave its mark on the distant past? While this idea falls squarely within the realm of science fiction, the persistence of this kind of speculation speaks to the enduring mystery surrounding the object. And so, as we continue to study the shoe from Arini I, we are left with a puzzle that, like so many others, resists easy explanation. What other secrets might the past be hiding? What could we learn from this object? A small but powerful artifact that has survived for over 5 millennia, only to confound us in the present. The shoe, so simple, yet so sophisticated, forces us to reconsider what we know about ancient craftsmanship and about the people who lived long before us. Its discovery is a reminder that history is not always as linear as we might think. Perhaps somewhere beneath the sands of time, there are still other artifacts, other remnants of ancient knowledge waiting to be uncovered. And with them, perhaps the answers to questions we have not yet thought to ask. Rising from the heart of India's ancient city of Delhi, a solitary pillar stands as an enduring symbol of mystery and resilience. The Iron Pillar, as it is known, is not just a marvel of craftsmanship. It is an unsolved enigma that has left historians, metallurgists, and archaeologists alike scratching their heads for centuries. Standing at over 23 feet tall, the pillar has resisted the ravages of time and the elements for more than 1,600 years, an extraordinary feat for a piece of iron left exposed to the weather and wear of the world for over a millennium and a half. The Iron Pillar of Delhi, situated in the Qutb complex, is not just an architectural monument, it is a living testament to the advanced knowledge and technological prowess of an ancient civilization. Cast in a time long before the Industrial Revolution and the advent of modern engineering, it has baffled those who seek to understand how such a feat was achieved. Its most remarkable feature? The iron from which it is made has shown no signs of significant corrosion, despite centuries of exposure to rain, wind, and pollution. It is a phenomenon that defies the expectations of modern science, a riddle that continues to intrigue and mystify. When the pillar was erected around 400 CE during the reign of Chandragupta II, it was likely intended as a victory column, celebrating the achievements of his empire and serving as a reminder of his authority. But its continued survival, unmarred by the usual process of oxidation that would normally take hold of any iron object exposed to the elements, raises unsettling questions about the material used, the methods of construction, and even the knowledge of those who created it. Iron, by its very nature, is prone to rust when exposed to moisture and oxygen. Rust, a process known scientifically as oxidation, occurs when iron reacts with oxygen in the presence of water, forming iron oxide. Given Delhi's seasonal monsoon rains and the harsh temperatures and humidity of the region, one would expect the pillar to have been corroded long ago. Yet, remarkably, the iron pillar has not only resisted rust, but has remained virtually unchanged for over 1,600 years. It is a puzzle that modern scientists have struggled to explain. The pillar's most notable feature is its near-perfect preservation. While small patches of corrosion are visible at its base, much of the pillar remains unaffected. The alloy itself, made of almost 98% iron with traces of phosphorus and other elements, is considered to be of a particularly high quality. Some metallurgists have suggested that the presence of phosphorus in the iron may have played a role in preventing oxidation. Phosphorus, when incorporated into iron, can form a protective layer of iron phosphate, which prevents moisture from penetrating the surface and thus inhibits rust. This in itself is remarkable. The idea that an ancient civilization understood such complex chemical processes seems almost beyond belief. But while this explanation holds some merit, it doesn't fully account for the pillar's long-lasting resilience. Many researchers have pointed out that the specific proportions of phosphorus found in the pillar's composition are far beyond what would be expected from typical ancient ironworking techniques. It seems clear that the craftsmen who built the pillar possessed a deep, almost intimate understanding of metallurgy, knowledge that would not be rediscovered until much later in history. Further adding to the mystery is the manner in which the pillar was cast. The lack of evidence for advanced furnaces or smelting technology that could have produced the quality of iron required for such a structure raises the question: how did the ancient builders achieve this? Historians have long assumed that the techniques used by the Gupta Empire, the civilization responsible for the pillar, were relatively basic compared to modern standards. But the material and workmanship of the iron pillar suggest otherwise. Could the builders have had access to lost or forgotten technologies, knowledge that we have yet to uncover? Another peculiar aspect of the iron pillar is the inscription found near its base. The inscription, written in Sanskrit, praises the ruler Chandragupta II and celebrates his victories. The text is a clear indicator of the pillar's political and cultural significance. However, some researchers believe that the inscription may hold additional secrets, perhaps even clues to the nature of the pillar itself. Could the inscription be pointing to something deeper, something beyond the political context of the time? What if the inscription was also intended to preserve the knowledge of the pillar's creation, knowledge that may have been lost over time? To this day, scientists are still debating how the pillar was able to survive the centuries with minimal corrosion. Some believe that the local climate, Delhi's relatively dry winters and humid summers, has played a role in preserving the pillar. The theory suggests that the combination of high humidity and low temperatures could have created an ideal environment for a natural protective layer to form on the surface of the iron. But even with this explanation, it remains unclear how such a phenomenon could occur with such precision, and why only this pillar, and not others of similar age and material, has experienced this degree of preservation. Theories range from the plausible to the more speculative. Some have suggested that the pillar was constructed with a particular combination of metals, perhaps copper or other alloys, that created a more durable surface. Others speculate that the pillar may have been coated with some kind of ancient preservative, a substance that helped protect it from corrosion. Could it be that the ancient builders of the pillar knew something we don't? Did they possess an advanced form of knowledge about metallurgy and material science that has been lost to history? One of the more fringe theories posits that the pillar might be a remnant of a civilization far older than the Gupta Empire, possibly dating back to a time long before recorded history. This theory suggests that the pillar could be part of a much larger structure, one built by a forgotten civilization with access to advanced technologies that have since been erased from history. While such ideas are tantalizing, they remain speculative, with no concrete evidence to support them. What if the pillar's remarkable preservation is a simple result of ancient ingenuity? The possibility remains that the people of ancient India possessed knowledge of materials and chemistry that we have not yet fully understood, knowledge that could one day be rediscovered. After all, the pillars of civilization are often built upon the achievements of those who came before them. Knowledge that is passed down, sometimes lost, sometimes rediscovered. As we continue to study the iron pillar, its mysteries seem to multiply. It is a reminder that, even in the modern age, there are still ancient secrets hidden from view, remnants of a past that we are only beginning to understand. Perhaps one day, scientists will unlock the full story of the pillar's creation and preservation. But for now, the questions persist. How did the ancient builders of the pillar achieve such incredible feats of craftsmanship? What knowledge did they possess that allowed them to create such a resilient object? And most importantly, what other hidden truths about the ancient world might still be waiting to be uncovered? The iron pillar stands, unmoving and steadfast, a silent witness to the passage of time, holding its secrets close and inviting us to search for the answers that may still lie beneath its rust-free surface. In the desolate expanses of the Sahara Desert, where the searing sun casts long shadows over endless dunes, a hidden mystery awaits discovery. Deep within the rocks of this vast desert, far from the eyes of modern civilization, are paintings that seem to defy explanation. These ancient works of art, drawn on the walls of a cave, depict scenes of beings floating in the air, figures that appear suspended, disconnected from the earth beneath them. This strange imagery, found in what is known as the Cave of the Swimmers in Egypt's western desert, has captivated the imaginations of researchers and explorers for decades. The paintings, believed to date back around 10,000 years, depict human-like figures with elongated bodies, painted in various poses of apparent levitation. These figures appear to hover above the ground, some with limbs extended, others seemingly mid-motion, caught in the act of rising or floating. Some seem almost to defy gravity, while others are shown surrounded by a mysterious aura, adding to the surreal nature of the scene. The cave paintings, vivid, vibrant, and enigmatic, have led to many questions. Who were the people who created them? And why did they choose to depict such strange, otherworldly figures? The site, located in the remote desert of southwestern Egypt, was first discovered in 1933 by a young explorer named Laszlo Almasi, who later inspired the character in the novel The English Patient. Almasi and his companions stumbled upon the cave and its stunning artwork while exploring the isolated expanses of the desert. What they found was not just a collection of art, but a haunting glimpse into a lost world, one that had long since disappeared beneath the sands of time. The paintings depict more than just figures floating in air. Many of the beings are shown with what appear to be fish-like or reptilian features, adding an eerie, otherworldly dimension to the scene. Some of the figures are surrounded by halos, or circular designs, which could suggest a divine or supernatural quality. The surrounding imagery, sometimes depicting swimmers or figures with arms outstretched as if grasping at the sky, seems to indicate that the figures were not just drawn to float, but perhaps to ascend into the heavens. At first glance, one might be tempted to dismiss the paintings as mere symbols, the product of a society's imagination or ritual. But there is something compelling about the imagery. The notion of beings suspended in midair raises questions that stretch beyond the limits of conventional archaeology. Could the figures represent something more than just mythological creatures or fantastical ideas? Could they be a depiction of an ancient understanding of the cosmos, a glimpse into the minds of people who may have had knowledge of the world that we have long forgotten? One theory suggests that the figures could represent ancient religious or spiritual beliefs. The idea of floating beings could be linked to the widespread belief in ascension, in the idea that certain individuals or deities could rise above the physical realm to enter a higher plane of existence. In many ancient cultures, flight, whether through spiritual or physical means, was associated with divinity, enlightenment, and transcendence. Could these paintings be the artistic representation of this belief? Were these ancient peoples capturing the experience of a shamanic journey, or a vision of the divine, where earthly boundaries no longer held sway? The significance of these floating figures becomes even more curious when considering the landscape in which they were created. The Sahara, now a barren and inhospitable desert, was once a lush, green expanse, teeming with life. Thousands of years ago, what is now the world's largest desert was a fertile region, rich in lakes and rivers, with animals and plants thriving in abundance. The prehistoric people who inhabited this region were not desert dwellers, but rather individuals who lived in a fertile land, hunting, gathering, and even practicing early forms of agriculture. It is within this ancient environment, now long erased by the sands of time, that the cave paintings were created. But why did these ancient peoples choose to depict such strange figures in their artwork? Theories abound, but the most fascinating ones suggest that these floating beings may represent a contact with something beyond the ordinary. Could these figures have been inspired by an encounter with something truly extraordinary? An event, a phenomenon, or a visitation that defied the laws of nature as they understood them? It is a possibility that remains tantalizingly out of reach, one that continues to fuel speculation. Could the figures in the cave paintings be a depiction of extraterrestrial beings? This theory, while on the fringe, has gained some attention due to the unusual nature of the artwork. The elongated forms, the otherworldly appearance, and the focus on levitation have led some to suggest that these figures could be representations of beings from the sky, visitors from distant stars who may have interacted with the people of the Sahara long ago. While there is no concrete evidence to support this idea, the enduring mystery of the paintings has inspired a range of speculations, from ancient astronaut theories to the idea that the images represent an encounter with otherworldly beings that left a lasting impression on the minds of the ancient artists. Others, however, caution against such speculative interpretations. They suggest that the figures could be part of a local mythological tradition, one that involved the representation of gods or spirits with the power to transcend the earthly realm. The surreal images of floating beings could simply reflect the way ancient people conceptualized the divine or the supernatural, figures that moved between worlds, unbound by the constraints of the physical world. But regardless of the interpretation, the paintings raise an even deeper question. What did the people who created them truly understand about the world around them? Were they capturing an experience, either spiritual, shamanic, or visionary, that was so profound that it defied conventional understanding? And, perhaps most intriguing of all, Why did these ancient people choose to leave behind such a cryptic message in the form of artwork? Some researchers have suggested that the floating figures could represent an early understanding of the cosmos, a desire to document celestial events or phenomena that the creators could not fully comprehend. Could the figures be symbolic of a connection to the stars, the movement of the heavens, or the notion of ascension? In a region where the stars were the only reliable form of navigation, it is not entirely out of the question that the people of the Sahara might have had an early, rudimentary understanding of astronomy, one that found its way into their art. As we consider these possibilities, we are confronted with a deeper question. What else might be hidden in the deserts of the world, waiting to be uncovered? The Sahara, with its vast, endless dunes and harsh environment, is a place that guards its secrets well. The cave of the swimmers and its strange floating beings are just one example of the mysteries that lie beneath the surface, waiting to challenge our understanding of the past. Could the paintings in the Sahara be more than just art? Could they be the key to unlocking an ancient understanding of the world that has been lost to time? And perhaps most tantalizing of all, are there other similar artworks, hidden away in caves and remote places, that have yet to be discovered? The paintings of floating beings in the Sahara remain an enigma, a mystery that continues to defy explanation. Whether they represent a spiritual vision, a fantastical tale, or something far more extraordinary, they serve as a haunting reminder of the complexity and depth of human history. As we continue to explore the desert's secrets, we are reminded that the past may hold far more than we can ever truly understand, if only we are willing to look. In the highlands of Peru, amid the rugged terrain of the Andes, lies a mystery that continues to baffle scientists and archaeologists alike. Buried deep within ancient burial sites are skulls that seem to defy the basic principles of human anatomy. Skulls with elongated craniums, far more pronounced than anything seen in the natural world. These elongated skulls have drawn attention not only because of their unusual shape, but also due to the genetic anomaly that sets them apart from any known human population. They are not just a peculiar relic of ancient human culture, they suggest something more, something that might challenge our understanding of human history. The discovery of these skulls was first made in the early 20th century, but their significance has only grown with the advancements in DNA testing and genetic analysis. Found in various locations across Peru, including the famous Nazca region, the elongated skulls have become the subject of ongoing debate, with many asking, how did these strange features come to be? Were these individuals the result of genetic mutations, deliberate cultural practices, or something more extraordinary? Perhaps an indication of a population separate from the human race entirely? At first glance, the shape of the skulls is striking. The craniums of these ancient beings appear unnaturally elongated, stretching far beyond the typical dimensions of human skulls. The phenomenon, known as cranial deformation, is not entirely unknown. In many cultures, particularly among ancient peoples of Central and South America, it was a common practice to modify the shape of the skull from a young age, often using wooden boards or cloth to mold the head into a desired form. The goal was often to create an aesthetic that symbolized beauty, status, or connection to the divine. However, what makes these particular skulls so intriguing is the degree of elongation, far beyond what would be expected from any known form of cranial deformation. The skulls of Peru exhibit a remarkable, almost otherworldly elongation. Some are elongated in such a way that they resemble the shape of a cone, with the top of the skull tapering sharply. Others are stretched to such an extent that they appear more like the head of an alien being than a human. These unusual skulls have been unearthed in numerous burial sites, many of which date back more than 2,000 years, during a time when the indigenous cultures of Peru were thriving. But even though cranial deformation was practiced in other parts of the world, the degree of elongation found in these skulls far exceeds what is typically seen in other cultures. Perhaps the most mysterious aspect of these skulls lies not in their physical appearance, but in the DNA analysis that has been conducted on them. In 2014, researchers conducted tests on the genetic material of these elongated skulls and found something that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The results indicated that the DNA of the individuals with the elongated skulls was not entirely human. While it shared the vast majority of genetic markers with modern humans, certain key genes seemed to differ, suggesting the possibility that these individuals were not entirely of human origin. The discovery of non-human DNA has sparked intense debates among scientists. While some attribute the anomaly to contamination or lab error, others have proposed more radical explanations. Could these skulls represent the remains of a population with unknown or lost genetic ties to an ancient human lineage? Or perhaps they are evidence of some form of hybridization between humans and another species, an unknown hominid or even an extraterrestrial being? The genetic results are not conclusive, but they certainly open the door to fascinating, if speculative, possibilities. One explanation for the DNA anomaly is that the individuals with elongated skulls were part of a group of ancient humans who possessed a unique genetic trait, a mutation that set them apart from the rest of the population. This theory suggests that the elongated skulls may be the result of an ancient, isolated lineage that existed alongside the ancestors of modern humans, and over time, their genetic differences were lost to history. The fact that these skulls have been found in a variety of locations across Peru suggests that this population was widespread, possibly even forming its own distinct cultural group. But there is another theory that takes a more speculative approach, one that delves into the realm of the extraordinary. Some researchers and enthusiasts have suggested that the unusual skulls are not the result of a human population at all, but of something far more mysterious. Could these skulls represent the remains of beings who were not human at all? Could they be the remains of an ancient extraterrestrial presence, visitors from another world who interacted with the ancient peoples of Earth? The peculiar shape of the skulls, along with the strange genetic markers, has led some to entertain the idea that these beings were not of this planet. This theory, though dismissed by the mainstream scientific community, is part of a growing body of ancient astronaut theories, which propose that extraterrestrial beings have visited Earth in ancient times, influencing human culture, technology, and genetics. The elongated skulls of Peru, with their inexplicable features and strange DNA, seem to some to be a physical manifestation of this idea. The argument goes that these beings might have been either visitors to Earth, or perhaps even the ancestors of the people who once inhabited Peru, leaving behind these mysterious skulls as evidence of their presence. Of course, there are more grounded explanations to consider. Many anthropologists argue that the practice of cranial deformation, which involved binding the skulls of infants to create an elongated shape, could explain some of the unusual skulls found in Peru. While this form of cultural practice is well documented, the extreme nature of the elongation found in the Peruvian skulls, combined with the genetic anomalies, suggests that there may be more to the story than mere cultural modification. The fact that the skulls appear to be from a single group of people, rather than a widespread practice, raises further questions. What makes this mystery even more puzzling is the fact that these elongated skulls seem to have been intentionally buried in sacred or significant locations, further indicating their importance to the societies that created them. Were these individuals seen as elite members of society, perhaps possessing knowledge or abilities that set them apart? The alignment of these burials with astronomical or religious sites suggests that these figures may have held a special place in the ancient worldview, perhaps even as intermediaries between the human and the divine. Could the Peruvian skulls represent a form of ancient knowledge, a secret passed down through generations. Or perhaps they are the remnants of a long-lost culture whose origins remain hidden in the mists of time. What if these skulls are not simply relics of a distant past, but a key to unlocking the mysteries of human history, offering us a glimpse into a forgotten chapter of our collective story? The genetic anomaly found in the skulls of Peru may one day be explained by future research. But for now, the question remains: what is the true origin of these strange, elongated craniums? Were they the product of an ancient cultural practice, a genetic mutation, or something far more extraordinary? As scientists continue to study these enigmatic remains, the mystery only deepens, and the possibility that we may be missing a crucial piece of our shared history lingers in the background. In the heart of medieval Europe, where the blood of kings and warriors ran deep into the earth, one of history's most enigmatic disappearances occurred. The year was 1066, a year that would come to define the fate of a nation. It was the end of an era, marked by one of the most famous battles in history, the Battle of Stamford Bridge, where a king, a warrior, and a legend would meet his untimely death. Harald Hardrada, the last great Viking king, had fought and bled for his kingdom, but it was not his courage or his legacy that would leave an indelible mark on history. It was the strange fate of his body that would remain a mystery for centuries to come. Harald Hardrada's death was a dramatic affair. As the King of Norway, Harald had lived a life filled with daring escapades, battles, and near-mythical exploits. His rise to power had been nothing short of extraordinary. From his time as a mercenary in the Byzantine Empire to his conquest of lands in the north, he had become a king whose name was whispered in fear and awe. His ambition was boundless, and he set his sights on England, seeking to claim the throne that was, in his view, rightfully his. In September 1066, Harald landed in England with an army of Viking warriors, ready to wage war on King Harold Godwinson and lay claim to the English throne. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. The Battle of Stamford Bridge, which took place just outside York, would be the scene of his final stand. Though he fought valiantly, Harald Hardrada was struck down by an arrow that pierced his throat, sealing his fate. The king was dead, and his dreams of ruling England lay in ruin. But the story of Harald Hardrada does not end with his death. What followed in the aftermath of the battle is what has puzzled historians and captivated the imaginations of many, a mystery that has endured for over 1,000 years, the disappearance of his body. After his death, it is said that Harald's body was taken from the battlefield and prepared for burial, but the details surrounding the treatment of his remains are shrouded in ambiguity. In the most commonly accepted accounts, his body was taken to the town of Norway, where it was buried with the honors befitting a king. However, no grave has ever been definitively identified, and there are no surviving records that offer conclusive evidence of where his body was laid to rest. It's as if the earth had swallowed him whole, erasing any trace of the last great Viking king. Some versions of the tale suggest that Harald's body was removed from the site of his death to be returned to Norway. Yet no one has been able to pinpoint the exact location of his final resting place. It is as if his body vanished without a trace, lost to time and the tumult of history. But could there be more to the story than just the disappearance of a king's body? Could it be that Harald's remains were intentionally hidden? Was there a deliberate attempt to erase his legacy from the world? As strange as it may seem, there are a number of theories that attempt to explain the mystery of Harald Hardrada's missing body. The most widely accepted theory holds that after his death, his body was returned to Norway, where it was buried in a prominent grave. Yet, over time, the grave was lost to the ravages of war and the shifting tides of history. This explanation is reasonable. After all, the turmoil of medieval Europe was characterized by frequent invasions, battles, and the destruction of historical sites. Could it be that the body of Harold Hardrada was simply lost amid the chaos of the times? But there are other, more speculative theories that lend a darker tone to the mystery. Some have suggested that Harold's body may have been intentionally hidden or destroyed. Was there something in the political landscape of 11th century Europe that made it dangerous to honor Harold with a royal burial? In the wake of his death, England was under the rule of King Harold Godwinson, and it's possible that, for political reasons, the body of a man who had invaded the kingdom was deliberately erased from history. His corpse could have been hidden or destroyed, an attempt to prevent his legacy from taking root in the collective memory of Europe. Some more fringe theories take a more sensationalist approach. Could Harold Hardrada's body have been taken by forces unknown, to be preserved or hidden away for some greater purpose? Over the centuries, tales of the Viking kings have taken on a mythic quality, blurring the lines between history and legend. Perhaps there are those who still search for his body, seeking to uncover an ancient relic that might hold the key to understanding his remarkable reign. Could it be that Harold's body was buried in a secret location, one that has yet to be discovered, perhaps beneath the soil of the North Sea or hidden deep within the wilds of Norway? And then there are those who suggest a more supernatural explanation, one that blends the mythic with the historical. Could the disappearance of Harold Hardrada's body have been influenced by forces beyond the human realm? Some have speculated that the Viking kings, with their deep ties to the Norse gods, may have left behind traces of their divinity, and that Harold's body might have been taken by higher powers, hidden from the world, to protect the sanctity of his royal bloodline. While this theory may seem far-fetched, it speaks to the mysticism that often surrounds legendary figures from history, particularly those who were larger-than-life personalities in their time. As compelling as these theories may be, no definitive answer has emerged. Despite extensive research and exploration, Harold Hardrada's final resting place remains elusive. Archaeologists, historians, and treasure hunters have all sought the missing body, but to no avail. The problem may lie in the simple fact that after more than 1,000 years, the traces of his life and death have been irrevocably erased. The tomb may have crumbled, the remains destroyed, or perhaps, given the passage of time, everything connected to Harold Hardrada's final days has simply faded into obscurity. The disappearance of Harold Hardrada's body invites a larger reflection on the way history treats its great figures. For every legend, there is a grave. For every mighty king, there is a tomb. But sometimes, those tombs are lost to time. History itself seems to have a way of swallowing its subjects whole, particularly those who led lives of great ambition, whose fates are intertwined with the sweeping changes of their era. And while the disappearance of Harold's body may seem like a puzzle without an answer, it also serves as a reminder of the mysteries that are often left behind when the world moves on, leaving only questions and the faintest of clues for those who dare to search for the past. The body of Harold Hardrada is but one among many lost to time, but his disappearance carries with it an air of intrigue, an unanswered question that calls to the deep recesses of history. What truths still lie hidden beneath the surface of these ancient tales? What fragments of the past remain lost, waiting to be unearthed by those who dare to ask the right questions? And, perhaps most hauntingly, what might we find if we were to uncover the final resting place of one of history's most legendary figures? In the arid highlands of Peru, nestled among the mountains that once witnessed the rise and fall of empires, a strange and unsettling discovery was made. It was a discovery that defied the natural order of time, a mystery that left scientists and historians questioning everything they thought they knew about preservation, the human body, and even life itself. The year was 1999 when archaeologists uncovered the remains of a woman, carefully mummified and laid to rest in an ancient tomb. But as they examined the body, something extraordinary was revealed. The mummy, despite having been dead for over 500 years, still seemed to have blood coursing through her veins. This woman, whom many have come to call the Lady of the Blood, was no ordinary mummified figure. Most mummies, after centuries of exposure to the elements, will have long since lost their blood. What remains in their veins is merely the dried remnants of what once flowed, a memory of life that has long since faded. But this mummy was different. When researchers carefully punctured the skin, they found a striking and baffling result. Blood, dark and rich, still filled the capillaries, flowing as though the body had been preserved in a way that was beyond all known methods of embalming. The discovery was a watershed moment in the study of mummification. It was not just the fact that blood remained in the veins, it was the astonishing preservation of the body itself. The skin, although withered, was remarkably well preserved, and the woman's internal organs, too, appeared in near-perfect condition. But it was the blood that captured the imagination of those who witnessed it. How could blood survive for centuries without decomposing? Could the blood itself hold the key to a deeper mystery? To understand the magnitude of the discovery, one must consider how mummification generally works. In ancient Egypt, the process of embalming was a highly sophisticated art, designed to preserve the body for the afterlife. Internal organs were removed, dried out, and sealed in jars, while the body itself was wrapped in linen bandages and coated with resins and oils to prevent decomposition. Even with these careful methods, the body would eventually succumb to time. Blood would dry up and the flesh would rot away, leaving only the bones behind. This is the natural progression of death, a pattern seen in mummies from all over the world. Yet this 500-year-old Peruvian mummy seemed to defy all of this. While the blood in her veins could have been an anomaly, it was not an isolated case. The discovery of the Lady of the Blood was just one example of several reports throughout history of mummies that retained unusual characteristics, such as preserved tissues or, in rare cases, blood that could still be detected. But the question remains, what caused the preservation of this blood, and how could such a phenomenon occur? Several hypotheses have been proposed over the years, each more fascinating than the last. Some researchers suggest that the preservation of the blood might be the result of an extraordinary form of natural mummification, one that is not fully understood. The woman may have been buried in an environment that allowed for an unusual level of preservation, where temperature, humidity, and the specific makeup of the soil worked in tandem to protect the body from decomposition. Such a theory would suggest that the conditions surrounding the burial site created a microenvironment that slowed or even halted the natural decay process. But this theory only raises more questions. Why were only certain bodies, like the Lady of the Blood, so uniquely preserved? And why did her blood remain so intact, whereas other mummies from the same period showed no such phenomenon? The natural environment could have preserved her body in some ways, but the blood, that remains a mystery. Another theory centers on the possibility that ancient people may have had more advanced methods of embalming and preservation than we currently know. Could the ancient civilizations of South America have discovered a process that allowed them to preserve not only the body but also the blood? The idea of blood preservation, in particular, would suggest that the process involved something far beyond what we understand about ancient embalming practices. Could they have had access to unknown substances or techniques that we are only now beginning to uncover? There is also the possibility that the body was treated with a substance, perhaps a resin, oil, or mineral, that helped preserve the blood in a more complete state. Some substances, such as those used in ancient Egyptian mummification, have been shown to have remarkable preservative properties. Could these same substances have been used by South American cultures to retain the blood within the veins? This idea does not rule out the possibility of some form of mummification expertise beyond what is widely recognized, suggesting that ancient knowledge of preservation could have been more widespread and complex than previously thought. However, there are also more speculative theories that delve into the realm of the extraordinary. Some have proposed that the preservation of the blood may not be the result of natural or man-made processes at all, but something far more mysterious. Could the woman's body have been subjected to a form of preservation by forces beyond human control? Some suggest that the blood might be the result of an unknown phenomenon, perhaps even the work of extraterrestrial intervention. Such a theory, though not widely accepted, speaks to a broader fascination with the unexplained. Could there be forces at play that we do not yet understand? Forces capable of preserving life and blood beyond the reach of time? As fascinating as these theories may be, the truth remains elusive. The mummy of the Lady of the Blood remains an enigma, her preserved blood a testament to something inexplicable. The fact that blood could survive for centuries without decomposing defies everything we know about biology and the natural world. The question now is, how much of the mystery is the result of ancient knowledge we have yet to discover, and how much lies beyond the bounds of our current understanding? What is certain is that the Lady of the Blood offers us a glimpse into a world long past, where knowledge and practices may have been far more advanced than we realize. And as long as her body remains an unyielding mystery, the question of how and why her blood remained intact will continue to haunt us. What truths are hidden in the blood that still flows through her veins? And perhaps more hauntingly, what other secrets, lost to time, might still be buried beneath the earth, waiting for someone to uncover them? The Lady of the Blood is just one example of the many historical mysteries that continue to challenge our understanding of the past. As science and technology advance, we may one day uncover the answers to questions that have long remained unanswered. But for now, her preserved blood, dark and mysterious, remains a reminder that there is much more to history than meets the eye. In the dim light of a forgotten library, there sits a book that has baffled scholars for centuries. Bound in weathered leather, its pages yellowed with age, it is a relic of a world that has long since passed. This is the Codex Seraphinianus, a manuscript unlike any other. To the untrained eye, it might seem to be nothing more than an elegant piece of art, a strange blend of intricate illustrations and bizarre symbols. But to those who have dared to study it, this book is a riddle that refuses to be solved. The manuscript was created by the Italian artist and writer Luigi Serafini in the late 20th century, but its mystery transcends its modern origins. Within its pages lies an unknown language, a complex set of symbols that seem to defy any system of writing known to humanity. Each page contains a set of illustrations, many of which depict bizarre, fantastical creatures, strange machines, and surreal landscapes. These illustrations are accompanied by a series of cryptic characters, symbols that, to this day, no one has been able to decode. The Codex Seraphinianus has been studied by linguists, cryptographers, and historians alike, but no one has succeeded in cracking its code. Some believe it is a work of art, an elaborate and intentional creation meant to provoke thought and wonder. Others speculate that it is a coded message, a secret language that holds the key to some hidden knowledge, locked away in plain sight. The truth, as with many mysteries of history, remains elusive. What makes the manuscript even more intriguing is the fact that its author, Serafini, has never provided a clear explanation of the meaning behind the symbols. In interviews, he has often described the book as a visual encyclopedia of an imagined world, a journey through a fantastical realm of his own creation. But this leaves one lingering question. If the book is a work of fiction, why are the symbols so intricate, so consistent, and so entirely foreign to any known alphabet or language? Some believe the manuscript is simply an elaborate hoax, a piece of art designed to confuse and captivate the viewer with no hidden meaning at all. But this theory has its own set of contradictions. The symbols within the codex do not follow the random, chaotic structure one might expect from a mere artistic exercise. Instead, they appear to be part of a deliberate and consistent system, a system that seems to follow its own internal logic, but one that remains inaccessible to human understanding. Could it be that Serafini, a man known for his intricate and surreal works of art, is playing a grand game with his audience? The Codex Seraphinianus might be nothing more than an artistic exploration of language designed to challenge our perception of communication and reality. Yet, the sheer complexity of the symbols raises a tantalizing question. What if there is, indeed, a message embedded within this strange system of writing? What if the key to unlocking its meaning is simply beyond our current grasp? There is, of course, the possibility that the book is a form of cryptic storytelling, meant to engage the imagination of the reader without offering any easy answers. Perhaps the symbols are meant to be interpreted not in a literal sense, but in a symbolic, artistic way. Just as abstract art challenges the viewer to find meaning in shapes and colors, so too might the Codex ask us to find meaning in its enigmatic symbols. Yet, this theory does little to quell the sense of unease that accompanies the manuscript. There are those who argue that the Codex Seraphinianus is more than just a collection of bizarre illustrations and symbols. It is a window into another world. Some have even suggested that the manuscript is an ancient text, one that was deliberately hidden or obscured, only to be rediscovered in modern times. The notion that Serafini's creation might be tapping into a much older tradition of secret knowledge, a tradition that has been guarded for centuries, is a theory that has captured the imaginations of many. If the Codex is an ancient text, then who could have written it? Some have drawn parallels between the Codex Seraphinianus and other mysterious manuscripts from history, works such as the Voynich manuscript, another famous text that remains undeciphered. The Voynich manuscript, like the Codex, contains strange illustrations and a script that has defied all attempts at decryption. The similarities between the two works have led some to speculate that they are part of a larger, hidden tradition of esoteric knowledge, passed down through generations but deliberately concealed from the public eye. But what could be the purpose of such a tradition? Why would these texts, filled with esoteric symbols and obscure imagery, be created in the first place? One possible explanation is that they contain ancient wisdom, secrets of the universe, hidden knowledge that only a select few are meant to understand. Perhaps these symbols represent a deeper truth, a truth that, if revealed, could change the way we understand the world. But why would someone choose to encode such knowledge in a manuscript that appears to be incomprehensible? What would be the purpose of hiding wisdom in plain sight if no one can decode it? Another theory is that the Codex Seraphinianus, like the Voynich manuscript, was never intended to be read by ordinary people at all. Instead, it could be a type of initiation text, a document that is only meant to be understood by those who possess a certain level of knowledge or understanding. Perhaps the symbols are not meant to be deciphered by the masses, but by a select few who can decode them using a different framework of thought, one that goes beyond language, one that connects the mind to deeper, more metaphysical concepts. There are those who, perhaps understandably, view the Codex as little more than an elaborate piece of intellectual theater. Some argue that it is a work of art that plays on the human fascination with the unknown, creating a sense of mystery and intrigue while offering no real answers. But the fact that no one has been able to decode the symbols, despite decades of study, makes it difficult to dismiss the possibility that something more profound lies beneath the surface. The question remains: will the Codex Seraphinianus ever be understood? Or is it a work that will forever remain shrouded in mystery, its meaning lost to time? The symbols inside the manuscript might hold the key to unlocking a hidden world, a world of forgotten knowledge or a system of thought so far removed from our own that it defies understanding. Or perhaps they are simply a work of art, an intricate puzzle designed to leave us questioning everything we know about communication, language, and perception. What is certain is that the Codex Seraphinianus continues to captivate, intrigue, and bewilder. The mystery of its symbols is far from resolved, and perhaps in the end, that is the most unsettling truth of all. Some mysteries may not be meant to be solved. The Codex remains, as always, a tantalizing enigma, a riddle that invites us to wonder what truths might lie hidden within its pages, waiting to be discovered by those bold enough to seek them. In the harsh, unyielding expanse of the Canadian Arctic, where ice and snow stretch to the horizon and the sun disappears for months at a time, a story unfolds that remains as chilling and mysterious today as it was more than a century and a half ago. It is the tale of the Franklin expedition, a voyage intended to chart the fabled Northwest Passage, which ended in tragedy and disappearance. A story marked by the loss of two ships, the HMS Erebus and the HMS Terror, and the vanishing of 129 men who were never seen again. The year was 1845, when Sir John Franklin, an experienced British naval officer, set sail from England with high hopes and lofty ambitions. The goal of his expedition was to navigate the Northwest Passage, a sea route through the Arctic archipelago, connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. It was a dream that had captivated explorers for centuries, a path that would open new trade routes and bolster Britain's imperial reach. Franklin, alongside his two ships and a crew of 128 men, departed in May 1845, determined to make history. But history would remember Franklin for an entirely different reason. As the years passed with no word from the expedition, concern grew. The last recorded sighting of the expedition was in the summer of 1845, and by 1848, the British government had dispatched search parties to locate Franklin and his men. What they found, however, was far more perplexing than they had imagined. The first discoveries came in 1850, when searchers found the Erebus and the Terror abandoned in the ice. But the ships were not merely deserted. They were eerily well preserved, suggesting that the crew had abandoned them not in haste, but after spending months, perhaps even years, preparing for a journey into the icy wilderness. But there were no bodies on board, no signs of what had happened to the men. In the years that followed, fragments of the story began to emerge. Written accounts found years later suggested that the men had been stranded on the ice, slowly dying of starvation and exposure. But it was the evidence that they left behind that truly confounded investigators. Letters, personal items, and even the remnants of a camp were found, along with signs of distress, including a set of written notes, perhaps the most chilling clue of all. The last known entry of the expedition's journal was dated April 25, 1848, and it recorded the men's deteriorating condition. They had been trapped in the ice for years, with little hope of escape. But what happened after that remains a mystery. The few scraps of evidence that surfaced painted a grim picture. Some crew members appeared to have resorted to cannibalism, a desperate act driven by the slow, agonizing death that awaited them. Others seemed to have died of disease or exposure. The bodies of Franklin and many others were never found, and to this day, their fates remain shrouded in uncertainty. What happened to those who vanished? Did the men truly succumb to starvation? Or was there something more sinister at play? Were there forces beyond their control, forces that led them to abandon all hope of rescue and descend into madness? These are questions that historians and explorers have grappled with for more than 150 years, but the answers remain elusive. One of the most enduring questions surrounding the Franklin expedition is how the men met their tragic end. The evidence points to a combination of misfortune, poor preparation, and the unforgiving nature of the Arctic environment. but some theories suggest that the men were not entirely the victims of natural forces. One popular theory posits that the expedition was the victim of a conspiracy, a tragic misjudgment of their route that led them into the ice, combined with a lack of supplies and faulty equipment. This theory is complicated, however, by the fact that the Erebus and Terror were both state-of-the-art ships, designed specifically for Arctic exploration. They were equipped with advanced technology, including steam engines that could help break through the ice. What if the true cause of their demise was something less tangible, something far harder to pinpoint? Some have speculated that the crew's downfall might have been tied to a simple human error, a navigational mistake that left them trapped in a desolate ice field with no way to escape. Others suggest that there was a breakdown in leadership, with Franklin's authority faltering as conditions grew more desperate. With so many men losing their minds in the face of certain death, it's not hard to imagine how chaos might have taken hold. But as the mystery deepens, so too do the fringe theories that surround the Franklin expedition. One of the most intriguing, though controversial, suggests that the men were not simply the victims of poor planning and bad luck, but rather that they may have been confronted by something far darker, the unknown dangers of the Arctic itself. Some believe that Franklin's crew, in their desperate attempts to survive, came into contact with indigenous groups who had long inhabited the icy landscape. Could there have been conflict between the expedition and these native peoples, leading to violence? Could the crew have been the victims of an attack, or perhaps even betrayed by those who should have been their allies? Other theories lean more toward the paranormal, speculating that supernatural forces, perhaps curses or ancient legends of vengeful spirits, played a role in the expedition's disappearance. This idea is fueled by the eerie reports of the ship's abandonment, the fact that the Erebus and Terror seemed to have been left with such care, as if the men knew they would not be coming back. Some even point to strange atmospheric phenomena, like sudden ice shifts or polar vortexes, that could have trapped the men in a nightmarish landscape. But these theories, though compelling, remain speculative at best. What is clear is that the disappearance of the Franklin expedition is a tragedy marked by profound loss, a mystery that may never fully be understood. It is a story of human ambition, of a quest for discovery, and ultimately, of the perils that come with pushing the limits of exploration in one of the harshest environments on Earth. The mystery remains unsolved. Over the years, search parties have continued to uncover evidence, the occasional body, personal effects, and fragments of the expedition's equipment. But the central question persists. What happened to Franklin and his men? Did they perish from the cold, or was there something more at play? Why, after all these years, do we still search the icy wilderness for answers? What truths might still be waiting to be uncovered beneath the shifting ice? Perhaps some mysteries, like the fate of the Franklin expedition, will never be fully explained. They remain as chilling as the winds that howl across the Arctic, reminding us that the world is still filled with questions we have yet to answer.